CD 10. Molly in the sky-blue satin dress, dirt-stained and creased, clumping along the dirt path in her dig boots. Bert the shovel helping to prop her up as she walks. The sound of a thunderous waterfall growing louder as the forest thins out. She feels it in the air, its spray fueling a mist that seems to be permanently watering the giant ferns and grey-green cycads she passes. And then the waterfall comes into full view, and it opens up to Molly Hook like a new world. An immense natural hall with a sky roof and mighty walls made of deep red sandstone. Walls so dramatic, Molly has to believe they were chiselled by Norse gods, or the lightning man, or just Father Time. A waterfall that Molly finds as deafening and spectacular as would be 1,000 white horses charging over that same 250-foot cliff face. A rapid torrent rush, so forceful that she has to shout to have her voice heard by her fellow travellers. "Is this a dream, Greta?" she screams, and Greta smiles and shakes her head, her face wet with spray. Molly looks across the scene. A black and purple and white spider in a vast web in a tree beside her. The web fluttering in the draught from the waterfall. Vibrant native plants fringing the plunge pool. Large black boulders resting on the water's edge like polite children being read to by a schoolteacher. What the plants, the birds, the rocks, the insects in the trees and the creatures below the pool have all come to see and hear today is the waterfall. Like Molly, they all made it this far through the deep country. The rocks rolled here, the birds flew, the plants crept, the insects crawled. Molly looks up to the sky-blue roof above it all. The day sky. She walks alone around the pool to a corner of the natural hall, and she talks to the day sky in a soft voice, letting the sound of the waterfall hide her thoughts from her companions. "I didn't think I'd make it so far in," she murmurs, elated by the waterfall's power and finding something more than gravity in it. "You've always been able to make it as far as you wanted to go, Molly," the day sky says to the gravedigger girl. "Why wouldn't you make it this far?" "I've always wanted to stop at some point," Molly says. "I always reached a point where I was too afraid to go any further." "What are you afraid of?" "Everything," she says. "Everything," the day sky says, "and only one thing." "What?" Molly asks. "Not what, Molly. Who?" "My uncle." "Aubrey Hook," the day sky says. "But I don't have to worry about him no more." "He died back in Hollow Wood," the day sky says. "Yes, he did, didn't he?" Molly replies. "Yes, he did." "You wouldn't lie to me, would you?" "No, Molly." "But all you are is one big lie," Molly says. "You're a trick." "I guess you'll just have to trust me," the day sky says. "I guess so." "Like you trust the pilot." "He's a good man." "We'll see." "What does that mean?" "It means we'll have to wait and see what comes." "What do you think is coming?" "Danger, Molly," the day sky says. "Pain. But wonder too, and gratitude and joy. But you'd better keep an eye on that Yukio." Molly looks across the plunge pool and sees Yukio drop his head and drink from its edge. "Careful, Yukio!" Molly calls. "Crocodiles!" She snaps her arms in a chomping motion. Yukio nods, moves back from the pool edge. They rest for an hour by the crashing waterfall. Greta washes her face and underarms. Yukio studies the plants and insects in the fringing forest. Molly sits apart by a large black boulder with a chalky rock in her hand. She scrawls a new poem on the black rock. Yukio watches her writing. She can sense him over her shoulder. She turns and smiles at him. He sits by her side. Poem. He smiles. Molly nods. It's about us, she says. Yukio points at a word on the rock. Treasure, Molly says. Treasure, Yukio repeats, smiling. Molly points at Yukio's chest, and then she points at Greta, who is now on the other side of the plunge pool, cupping water onto her hair. Both treasure, Molly says. Both gold. Gold, Yukio whispers, his eyes fixed on the actress, who is standing now, a thick beam of sunshine backlighting her emerald dress, which is wet and sticking to her body. Molly sees the way he looks at her and, soon enough, Greta catches the pilot looking at her too, and she returns his gaze. What? She asks. Yukio points a finger at her. Greta Mays is treasure, he says, nodding his head in earnest, and he stands now as though he needs to speak this truth to the whole of the forest. Greta Mays is gold, he says. Greta freezes in confusion. Then she blushes. And Molly stands now too, and elbows the pilot playfully. Slow down, Romeo, she says. Yukio whips his head back to Molly. Romeo! He rejoices in his broken but improving English. Wherefore art you, Romeo? Molly waves him in close. She offers her wisdom with a series of backhand pats on his belly, like she's a pub bookie giving priceless horse tips to a penniless mug. Don't go climbing up the balcony so quick, you know what I mean? She whispers. Yukio's eyes say he's not following. Don't run your race before the gun's gone off. You follow? Race. Gun, Yukio says. She pats his belly again. You gotta keep your cards close, Yukio, she whispers. Then lay down that king of hearts when she least expects it. Don't go laying down all your joker cards. You gotta show her your heart without spilling your beans. Yukio concentrates on her words while Molly turns to the edge of the waterfall and skims the rock she used to write her poem along the rippling pool. She counts the number of times it skips across the water. 5, she says, proudly. And from the other side of the pool, Greta watches Yukio skipping stones into the water and laughing along with the gravedigger girl. And for a moment, Greta wants this time in this place to slow down so much the three of them could stay like this for a month, for a year, for a lifetime. That man saved her life. He came back for her. He fought a giant for her, and he nearly died in the process. And she saw his face when his neck was being strangled by the giant's hand. His face was so serene. His eyes were sailboats on calm seas, and he was sailing off to some place she knows as well as him. It wouldn't be so bad, she thinks. It wouldn't be so bad if there's nothing left. Not so bad if it's all blown up back there, beyond the beginning of the deep country. Only 3 people left on Earth to walk it. And it wouldn't be so bad if one of them was him. She's still staring at him when he turns to find her gaze across the pool. She's still staring at him when he gives her a kind of half-smile that tells her, in the best kind of language, the noiseless kind, that he knows it makes no sense to be here. He knows it makes no sense to feel so alive when she was just so close to death. Then, in the tunnel of his view between them, he stops smiling, because attraction is a serious phenomenon, and Greta knows in this moment that heart curses are just fantasies for 12-year-old girls to believe, because nothing could still her heart when it's beating as fast as this. At lunchtime, Molly looks into the duffel bag for something to eat. 1 can left in the bag. a tin of her father's oxtail soup. The trio sit together by the edge of the black pool. Molly makes a hole in the soup can with her paring knife, and the three travellers take sips of the soup, which is lukewarm from the heat of the day. Greta nearly vomits her first taste back up, but then she squeezes 3 more mouthfuls down out of necessity. As she savours her mouthful of soup, Molly looks up and is struck by a peculiar cave in the cliff face behind the waterfall. She notices a series of boulders, fallen and crumbled into place over millennia, which form a rough climbing route up to the cave entrance, and she studies the curious shape of the cave's black void. Greta washes her hands in the plunge pool. "So where do we go now?" she asks. "We've run out of track." Molly is still looking at the cave, veiled by the rushing water. "Where were you born, Greta?" "What's that got to do with where we're heading?" "Just tell me where you were born." "Leipzig," Greta says. "Where's that?" "About 100 miles southwest of Berlin," she says. "My family came to Sydney when I was 2 years old." Molly gulps another mouthful of oxtail soup. She sits higher up than the others, on a smooth black boulder, while Yukio sits cross-legged on the grass, and Greta lies next to him, with her head resting on a grey rock slab, half buried in dirt. "You were born in Germany," Molly says. She nods at Yukio. "He was born in Japan, and I was born in Darwin. But I reckon we all came from the same place." "What are you talking about?" "My grandfather's directions," she says. "The place beyond your place of birth." She nods to the cave behind the waterfall. "What does that cave look like to you?" Greta studies the peculiar shape of the cave. "Like a pumpkin seed. Like an oyster," she tells herself. "Like the fresh mussels they sell by the waterfront on Sunday mornings." Then she sees it. "Well, ain't that just like a bloke?" she says, "sitting in God's country, surrounded by 1,000 natural miracles, and all he sees is a lady's pigeonhole." Yukio follows the gaze of the women, but struggles to see what they see. "Pigeonhole?" he ponders. Molly howls with laughter. Greta smiles, points at the cave beyond the waterfall. "The shape of the cave," she says. Yukio squints. "The nick in the notch?" "The naughty." Greta laughs. "The old rest and be thankful." Molly slaps her thighs, and Yukio laughs with her, still not following. "Yeah, periwinkle," Molly giggles, hands over her mouth. Greta rattles off names now, not even laughing, just stewing on the minds of all the men she's danced with and worked around since the age of 22. She adopts the voice of a drunken red dirt cattleman. "Your 9pence, your nursery, your itching Jenny, your Irish fortune," she says, picking up small rocks from the ground beside her and tossing them into the deep black waterhole. "Tulip, poke hole, spout, twatch, twitchet, niche, naff, naggy, and feckin' nettlebed." She pauses to think on something for a moment, and she returns to her natural voice. She sees all their faces and all their fingers. "Cunts," she says. Rusting wheels suddenly turn into motion in Yukio's mind. "Oh!" he gasps, pointing at the cave, wide-eyed and embarrassed. And Molly howls so hard she falls backwards off her sitting rock. Yukio's laughter then echoes across the waterfall chamber, and his joy is a welcome infection for Greta, who lets her pursed, puffy lips slowly break into a smile. Molly stands up now, collecting herself, and nods her head at the cave. "All the stories I ever heard in town about my grandfather's long walk," Molly says. "He never said exactly where he went, but he spoke about what it was like. He said he went into magic places with Longcoat Bob." She looks around her setting. "This feels pretty magic to me, this place." "He said he walked through places with Longcoat Bob and came out the other side into places that felt like different worlds. different dimensions even. Molly takes a deep breath. "Yep, this is the way," she says. "We gotta swim over to the other side of the waterhole. We gotta go through that cave up there." "What about the crocodiles?" Greta asks. "I think we'll be all right," Molly replies. "You gonna talk to them again?" Greta says dryly. "Ask them for permission to cross." Molly smiles. "Nah, them crocs will come here every now and then, but I reckon they won't want to hang around too long because of that noisy waterfall." "Crocodiles," Yukio says, airing his concern. "Yeah, but just freshies this far inland, Yukio," Molly says. Greta places a calming hand on Yukio's thigh. "Don't worry, the freshies only grow to 9 feet, she says. But Yukio doesn't hear that line because he's distracted by something moving low in the sky over Greta's shoulder. Then, Greta hears it too. Something familiar. Something impossible. It's the sound of a baby crying, loud enough to be heard above the noise of the waterfall. She follows Yukio's gaze and turns around to see a dark, black-brown, wedge-tailed eagle cutting from east to west across the wide black pool. So big and majestic and powerful is the creature that Greta flinches when she sees it. An adult female with a wingspan that must be more than 8 feet across. A flying motion of such grand design and power that as the wings cut the air, they make a noise like a silk sheet being shaken in the wind. And she knows it is the queen they saw before. The great bird has a fanned and wedged tail almost 2 feet across, so wide and balanced Greta could serve scones on it with mini bowls of jam and cream, and a hooked grey beak appropriately shaped like death's scythe. But the raptor is burdened. It moves slow through the sky with laboured flaps of its wings because somewhere along its endless hunt for easy prey, a moving and pitiless ground feast of rabbits and brown hares and foxes and koalas and wombats and small wallabies, its long black talons have hooked a strange treasure, more cumbersome than even this raptor's normally impressive endurance and leg strength can accommodate. A howling human infant, nestled in a baby sling made of bush string, paper bark and cane strips, which now hangs from the eagle's vice-grip talons by its woven cane and paper bark carry strap. Greta hears that cry again, splitting the air and splitting her heart. 2 other smaller birds shoot down from high above towards the eagle and its plunder. They look like brown hawks, and Greta now realizes that the eagle is waging a mid-air fight to keep hold of its treasure. One brave hawk flaps a wing across the eyes of the eagle, which then slows, and this slowing of momentum seems to add to the weight of the cargo, and the eagle must work hard now to start the motor of its wings again and find enough energy to make it to the top of the waterfall. Then the second hawk attacks the eagle from the side with a surprise flurry of wings and raised legs and talons, and the mighty eagle is forced to defend itself. It releases its prized and howling plunder and raises its own spent legs and talons up to the spirited hawk, driving hard with a flap of its wide wings to force the hawk back so it can fly freely out of the gorge. Molly Hook sucks air deep into her lungs as she watches the baby sling with the baby inside it falling towards the black pool. But Greta Mays, the toast of Palmerston, is already swimming across the water as the baby lands hard. "Greta!" Molly calls. The actress's arms turning like windmills through the water, calves and thighs thrashing through the glassy pool, her saddle shoes still tied to her feet. Her head is down in the water and she takes no breaths because she doesn't want to lose any speed. A single word crosses her busy mind while her head is under the water. Freshies. But she powers on, and when she raises her head, she sees the baby in the sling, bobbing momentarily on the surface. But then the water fills the sling and sucks the baby under. Greta takes a deep breath and dives deep and hard. Molly and Yukio watch her disappear. "Greta!" Molly screams. No movement for a long moment. Just the crashing of the waterfall. And then she reappears. The actress, one arm stroking across the water and the baby inside the sling held up to her chest. Her usually bouncy blonde curls sopped across her ears, concentration and determination and fire across her face. Molly breathes with relief, and she knows now just how much she cares for this woman in the water. A good one, she tells herself, the real good one. She would cry for her if she could, but instead she drops the empty can of soup on the ground, picks up Bert the shovel and her duffel bag, dives into the black water and follows the actress to the other side of the falls. Yukio, the pilot who fell from the sky, stares at these strange creatures in the water and wonders what kind of place he fell into here, in this continent south of everything. A place where birds drop children from the sky and angels with blonde curls dive into crocodile-infested waters to save them. But this is not a time for thinking, he tells himself. This is a time for action, for doing what the actress did. He's not a natural swimmer. He was never the kind to dive into blind bodies of water. But this place south of everything is transformative. People can change here, he tells himself, and he feels himself turning by the water's edge. And he dives into the water and dog paddles awkwardly across the pool, panting with every moment and struggling to keep his heavy war boots moving. The raging waterfall thunders down to his right, and he fights to stay away from the suck of the plunging water. Near the far edge of the pool, his boots find purchase on moss and mud, and his arms reach for a fern that he then uses to pull himself onto a thin ledge of sandstone. He stands up out of the water, puts his hands on his kneecaps to catch his breath, and then staggers over to the women. Molly huddles against Greta's left shoulder, and Yukio now stands at her right shoulder, and the three wanderers catch their breath as they gaze into the eyes of the newest member of their travelling party. A baby boy in Greta's arms, his big, brown eyes staring back at the woman who holds him so carefully, so naturally. "Shh," Greta says. "Shh." And the boy does not cry. The fourth sky gift. Everything we need. Cold in here. Dank and earthy and smelling of batshit. This is the dark cave Greta spoke of. "Close your eyes," she said. "You don't realise it, but you're actually standing inside a large stone cave in total darkness." This is what Molly's cave looked like in her mind. This was the place before the sad place she saw beyond her bedroom door. Outside that bedroom in her mind was a hallway, and at the end of that hallway was a bedroom where the moon lit up her mother's face, and where the shadow wolf moaned in the dark. Everybody has a sad place, Molly thinks. What's waiting for me outside this stone cave? What's beyond the bedroom door? "Can you see anything ahead, Molly?" Greta asks, and her words echo through the pitch-black tunnel. Molly walks up front, banging Bert's blade against the large boulders that clutter the passageway that has so far stretched some 40 yards from the waterfall. "I can't see nothing." Greta, walking in the middle of the trio, holds the baby boy in a firm two-arm grip against her chest. If she trips again on one of these boulders, she'll twist and shoulder the brunt of the fall. "This fella's gonna need feeding," she says. "Hold the boy," she tells herself. "Protect him from this strange country. No place for a thing so perfect. No place for the miracle boy." "That fella needs his mum," Molly says. Yukio Miki walks behind the actress and the gravedigger girl, running his right palm along the cave ceiling, which is only a forearm's length higher than his head. Molly remembers Greta's words. Then you see a line of fire draw a door on the wall of that cave. Up, across, down again, and back across. A fire-traced door is what she needs. She would open the door and step out of the cave into a new world. And what would that world look like? That place? What if there was no shadow in that place? No moonlight? Only sunshine? She sees her mother, Violet, and her mother is beautiful there. And she wears a smart dress that her best friend, Greta Mays, bought for her. Because in this place, in this world, Greta could be the friend her mother never had. The strong and reliable friend she always needed to lean on. These two best friends now sip fresh lemonade and smoke cigarettes in sunglasses under the milkwood tree in the backyard of her grandfather Tom Berry's sprawling old house on the Darwin waterfront. And Molly runs into her mother's arms, and they spin, and together they lie on their backs beneath the milkwood tree, looking up at the sky. "Can you feel it, Molly?" her mother asks. "Can you feel it? We're on top now, Moll. We're on top." "Greta?" Molly calls softly through the darkness. "Yeah, kid?" "It wasn't the sky," Molly says. "What's that?" "I know it wasn't the sky who gave me that first gift," she says. "It wasn't?" Greta replies in the darkness, gently, tenderly. "It was my mum who gave it to me," Molly says. "I know that. I've always known that. I just liked the idea that the sky might give me gifts. No one else was giving me gifts. I thought that the sky might see me down here and it might want to make me happy or something." Three wanderers and a baby in the darkness. A long silence. "But why would she give me my grandfather's map like that?" Molly asks. "Why would she say it was all coming from up there and not down here?" "Maybe she wanted you to know there was always some place beautiful to turn to," Greta says. "She gave you the sky, Molly. Maybe that was the gift. Not the bloody copper pan." "I reckon she wanted me to find Longcoat Bob," Molly says. "She wanted me to find him and ask him to leave me be. She didn't want my heart to turn like hers did." "Molly?" "Yeah," Molly says. "Your mum loved you a whole lot." "How do you know that?" Molly asks. Mums just know, Greta thinks. "I just know," she says. "Yeah, I reckon she did. But then her heart turned to stone and she had to go away," Molly says, her hands reaching blindly for a boulder that her boots have struck. She lifts her legs over the boulder and says, "Boulder coming up." "Hearts don't turn to stone, Molly," Greta says. "But they do turn. One day your heart is filled with nothing but love, and then something gets inside and mixes in with all that love, and sometimes that something is black, and sometimes it's cold, and it feels just like stone because it's heavy, and sometimes it gets so heavy you can't carry it inside you no more." "Sometimes I feel mine turning," Molly says. "Yeah, I feel it too," Greta says. "You do?" "Of course I do," Greta says. "But guess what?" "What?" "Sometimes I feel it turning back the other way." "You do?" Of course I do.
When?
Molly asks. When I talk to you, for a start, Greta says. Molly stops walking. She reaches a hand out for Greta in the darkness. She finds her shoulder, and Greta finds the gravedigger girl's hand in the black, and she briefly squeezes it. But the moment is too sweet for someone so battle-hardened, so she shatters it with humour. And then there's the times we go on long walks through old rock vaginas. And Molly laughs, but a sound makes her turn back the way she was heading. A sound somewhere in the black, somewhere towards the end of the passageway.
Can you hear that?
She asks.
It's music.
And she quickens her pace, tapping Bert's blade against earth and rock as she goes. Piano keys, Greta says. Those perfect notes. Greta knows them. Greta remembers them. It's Liebestrom, Greta says. The love dream. She remembers every note. My father played this when I was a girl. I'd go to sleep at night, and he'd rest his drinks on the piano top and play me to sleep with this music. My father said that was how I should always go to sleep. With a love dream. Molly listens hard. Notes falling into notes, echoing through the cave. Some of the long, melancholy notes moving in the opposite direction to others that are sharp and bright. The song feels to Molly like a heart that has not turned yet. A song for a heart filled as much with joy and hope as it is with sadness and longing. Then she sees light ahead, and she rushes towards it, the strange notes leading her on to where the passageway ends at a narrow gap she finds she can slip through easily when she turns side on and leads with her left shoulder. She emerges into a clearing flanked by rugged and sloping sandstone. Opposite her, a loose path of dirt and small rocks splits in two. The western fork runs to a ridge of sandstone, beyond which Molly can see an expanse of stone country in the distance. A fork of silver-blue lightning splits the deep grey sky ahead.
The lightning man,
she whispers.
Follow the lightning.
But then Molly hears the piano notes coming from down the eastern fork, which heads off through a stand of black wattles and soap trees with flat, round black fruits. And then down an avenue of trees with mottled cream-grey bark and stiff leaves exploding with small ripe red fruits. These tree clusters are all canopied by a dense climbing vine with orange-yellow flowers shaped like starfish. And the melancholy piano notes float through this forest like saddened spectres. Greta and Yukio emerge from the tunnel, and Greta, holding the baby boy in her arms, the baby boy who fell into her arms from the sky, instinctively follows the notes down the vine forest avenue.
Greta, where are you going?
Molly asks. Greta says nothing, just walks deeper into the forest.
We need to go this way,
Molly says, pointing towards the stone country.
We need to follow the lightning. We're almost there. I can feel it.
But Greta walks on, her head turning left and right to study the hall of trees enveloping her, swallowing her whole. Deeper, deeper into the forest. The notes of the piano drawing her along another dirt path that veers off through a wall of crab's eye vine with purple pea-like flowers. Beyond this natural barrier, in front of a sandstone rock wall swallowed long ago by snaking and multiplying and unstoppable vines, is a circular clearing. And Greta now sees metal gold rush relics in the foliage around her. 2 upright wagon wheels rusting away by the rock wall, an ore cart, a wooden ladder, a pile of chains and straps and shafts and poles. In the centre of the clearing is a single tall bombax tree, maybe 60 feet high, with rough, pale grey bark covered in conical thorns. The tree is alive with fleshy red flowers and oblong brown seed capsules, hundreds of which lie on the ground. Their capsules split open like they were alien vessels whose absent owners abandoned them long ago. Beneath this tree sits a skeletal old man with long white hair, snowy eyebrows, a bushy chalk-white beard, and old, worn hands that are moving purposefully across the black and white keys of an old and moulding walnut wood upright piano. He wears a cheap, cream-coloured Chinese-style flowing tunic over loose brown slacks. No shoes on his feet. He's lost in his own music, his eyes closed and his head moving along the hills and valleys of his ghost notes that spirit themselves away from the piano and into the dense forest. And Molly can see now that the old man is playing for an audience of a kind. There are 8 bodies scattered behind him across the forest floor. 8 people sleeping. At least, Molly hopes they're sleeping. Chinese men and women in rag clothes. All of the sleepers are old and frail. Some rest on their backs on low stretchers, and some rest their backs directly on the forest floor. Some laughing in their sleep, some turning their heads. 2 of them look particularly serene, asleep in the daylight, but smiling as though the music is reaching right through to their dreams, conjuring expressions of deep contentment.
Calm, calm,
the old man says, still playing with his eyes closed.
Come closer. Don't be afraid.
He sounds European. Dutch, maybe. Greta slowly and cautiously approaches the piano, holding the sky baby close. Molly and Yukio join her, and they all stare at the man with hair so lightning white, Molly wonders, for the briefest moment, if they have not stumbled upon Sam's lightning man here in the flesh. The one who sprays bending rods of electricity from his ear holes. Yukio rests his hand on the grip of the short sword, hanging from his military belt. His eyes scan the clearing for signs of danger, and the fact he sees none does not blunt the edge of his vigilance. Greta gazes over the sleepers in the forest. What are they all doing here? Greta asks.
What does it look like they're doing?
The old man replies, not skipping a note. Sleeping? Greta says.
Not just sleeping,
he replies.
Dreaming.
Piano notes bending through the forest trees. You play beautifully, Greta says. The old man does not stop his fingers to respond.
I play nothing,
he says.
The machine plays me. I just sit down at it.
Notes into notes. Fingers still working across the keyboard. There is little flesh in the old man's cheeks, and even less hanging off his arm bones. I've always liked this music, Greta says.
Your father played it for you,
the old man says. How did you know that?
I played this for my daughters,
the old man replies.
Fathers should always play the Liebestrom for their daughters.
When the old man talks, Greta can see that his teeth are rotting, and there are faint black stains on what's left of them. There's a tar-black tinge, too, around the edges of the beard hairs closest to his mouth. Dad said it was from a poem, Greta says. Notes into notes into notes.
Oh, love, as long as love you can,
the old man recites.
Oh, love, as long as love you may.
Now Greta can see the old man's tongue is black too.
The time will come, the time will come,
the old man says.
when you will stand at the grave and mourn, be sure that your heart burns and holds and keeps love as long as another heart beats warmly with its love for you.
The old man opens his eyes now, and he finds Greta staring at him, but he does not stop playing, and then his eyes move to the baby boy in her arms. The man's eyes are a deep blue, and the colour pops from his face because everything else about him is white. He smiles, and his smile stays wide when he turns to Molly behind Greta's shoulder and Yukio behind Molly's shoulder. He stares into Molly's eyes.
Do you want to know the secret?
He asks the gravedigger girl.
Yes,
Molly says.
My human heart needs to stay warm, he says. But it can only stay warm by warming your heart. That's the trick of the human heart.
The old man now stares into Yukio's eyes.
But the music that came from that poem is far more miraculous than any poem, don't you think?
The old man asks. Yukio's face reveals nothing when he stares back at the old man. The old man plays on.
The music reminds us that the miracle of love is that it is transcendent. That's the trick of true love. It transcends even death.
The baby in Greta's arms cries. The old man plays on.
That baby does not belong to you,
the old man says. Molly steps forward to stand beside Greta.
The boy dropped from the sky,
she says. The man doesn't miss a note, keeps on playing. Changes in key signatures, long notes with stretched stems, a high note cadenza. A bright run of notes that feels to Greta like the story of the song is moving now into the composer's intended dream territory.
A baby boy just fell from the sky,
the old man ponders.
An eagle had his hooks in him, but then he dropped him in the drink,
Molly says.
It was only because of Greta that he's still breathing.
The old man nods at Yukio.
Did the eagle drop the Japanese soldier down here too?
The baby cries again. Greta rocks him. Shh, she whispers.
I once saw an eagle flying with its claws hooked into a dead goanna twice as long as that baby,
the old man says.
Remarkable creatures.
Do you know who the baby belongs to? Greta asks.
No,
the old man says. Do you know where I might find the boy's family?
No, he replies, because that boy's family never stays in one place. They're like these fingers of mine, always moving. But you rest assured they'll find the boy.
How will they find him if I have him?
He's a son of this place,
the old piano player says.
The land will tell his family you have him.
Molly spots a small green fruit resting on top of the piano. The fruit has been split open, revealing a marble-sized black seed that seems, to Molly's eye, to be covered in bright red blood. She leans closer to inspect the strange seed.
Myristica insipida,
the old man says.
Native nutmeg. Who are you?
Molly asks.
I'm Lars, he says. Who are you? I'm Molly Hook from Darwin, she says. I'm looking for a blackfella named Longcoat Bob.
The old man's fingers stop with a low note thud, and he slams the fallboard down hard over the keys, making Molly jump on the spot.
Why do you want to find Longcoat Bob?
You know him?
Everybody in this forest knows Longcoat Bob for one reason or another, he says. But what's your reason for knowing Bob?
He put a curse on my family because my grandfather stole his gold long ago, Molly says.
What happened to your family?
The old man probes in a soft voice. Longcoat Bob turned their hearts to stone, Molly says. They all started dying. Some died quick, and some died slow, and some died long before they should have.
Everybody dies, child, the old man says. I suspect there are hundreds lying dead in your hometown as we speak.
He swings round to Yukio.
They died before they should have too, and not at the hands of a black man's magic stick.
He turns back to Molly.
But one should never mourn the dead, Molly Hook from Darwin, for they have embarked on a journey far more wondrous even than the one that brought you here. You stumble blindly in your boots here on earth, but the dead take flight, Molly Hook, through light and through dark and through light again.
I need to find Longcoat Bob, Molly says. Is he anywhere in this forest? Are we even going the right way?
Yes,
the old man says.
He's nearer to you than you think.
The baby cries again.
The boy is hungry,
the old man says, turning back to Greta. We've run out of food, Greta says. The old man smiles. He raises his arms up to the forest.
There is food all around you, he says. This forest has everything we need.
The boy needs milk, Greta says. The old man nods. He rises slowly to his feet and walks towards a thick layer of wild passion fruit vine hanging off the rock wall bordering the circular clearing.
Come meet my friends, he says.
He pulls a thick clump of vine back as sure as he would pull a curtain on a window frame, revealing a tunnel cut into the rock.
Come,
the old man calls, waving his arm. Molly casts her eyes over the sleepers on their backs in the forest. You just gonna leave these people here? She asks.
Of course, the old man says. Their dreams haven't ended yet.
Molly turns to Greta at the piano.
We need to keep going, she whispers.
Greta assesses the old man, looks down at the boy in her arms. He needs milk, she says.
But we need to follow the lightning, Molly says.
Greta turns back to the old man, weighs her options.
Come, the old man calls. Don't be afraid. Come meet my friends.
The boy needs to eat, Greta says to Molly, and she walks across to the old man, who smiles when Greta ducks her head into the black void of the cave. His home is an underground network of old gold mine tunnels, lit by lanterns and candles. Lars leads his guests through a central corridor, and Molly walks behind Greta, looking left and right at the corridors branching off the main walkway. There are other people in here. Many others. Down one corridor on the left, a slim Chinese woman, maybe in her mid-20s, leans against the entrance to another branching passageway, with a young Chinese girl, 5 or 6 years old, standing by her side. Molly watches Lars say something to the young woman in Chinese, and the young woman appears to acknowledge his words, and she slinks away with the child, drifting into the darkness. On the right of the main corridor now, in the entrance to another corridor, stand a young, red-haired woman in a loose and dirt-stained linen dress.
"Have you seen Marielle?"
Lars asks the red-haired woman. "She's in the reading room," she replies.
"Inform her of our guests," Lars says. "We have an infant here in urgent need of milk."
Molly smiles politely at the red-haired woman as she passes, but the red-haired woman does not smile back. "How long have you been living down here like this?" Greta asks.
7 years,
Lars says nonchalantly, as if that is a perfectly reasonable amount of time to live inside a large hole in the earth. He comes to a stretch of red matting laid down in the corridor in front of the entrance to another, more expansive cave lit up by flamelight. By the side of the natural arched opening sits a row of shoes and sandals. Lars spreads his right arm out.
"Please, after you," he says.
Greta steps into a spacious circular chamber, lit by 6 rows of thick, white wax candles lining the walls at separate points. 6 wooden workbenches are spread across the room, each one 3 feet wide and 1 foot across, and poorly knocked together from found timber and nails. Atop these benches rest specimens of native plants, some in large glass jars and some in pots filled with soil, and some dried out and pressed flat between sheets of paper. "What is all this?" Greta asks.
"Test samples," Lars says. "Research."
Molly puts her eyes up close to a jar of white globular fruits the size of sweet peas.
"What are they?"
Molly asks.
"Magic beans," Lars says. "Make a paste out of those and rub them across your chicken pox. You'll be healed right quick, just like magic."
This room has given the old man energy. Greta sees a new oddness in him. His speech quickens. His thoughts bounce from notion to notion, idea to idea. He says he is a man of science. He says he is a man of medicine.
"What's that one?"
Molly asks, looking into a jar of stalks with red fruits.
"It's an insect repellent and a contraceptive all in one," he says. "A what?"
Molly asks. He says he calls himself a botanist, but the description speaks nothing of his life's work. He says he came to Australia with his wife, Marielle, to document and share his observations on the uses and compositions of ancient bush medicines, long known to northern Australian Aboriginals.
"What's that one?"
Molly asks, looking at a prickly bush.
"The cure for rheumatism,"
he says proudly. He tells them that he has found things in this wild, southern world that could transform global medicine, but that the world has always moved too slow for men like him. Molly studies a jar of lemongrass.
"Earache,"
Lars says. Yukio is taken by a jar filled with a succulent, bushy plant, not unlike a Japanese bonsai.
"Toothache,"
Lars says. Greta holds a long, green stalk with a green orb at the end, opening to a crown of small, green-yellow spikes.
"Papaver somniferum,"
Lars says, with great reverence for the plant.
"Opium poppy."
"You're making opium here?" Greta asks. Lars scoffs.
"The extraordinary properties of the opium plant figure prominently in my research, but to say I make opium is to say Moses tended to sheep," he says, "or Michelangelo painted walls."
He says he has reasons for never going back to Sydney. and the wild beauty and bounty of the northern vine forests are the only things that matter to him now.
"Yes, I have made my mistakes," he says. "Yes, I have sinned. But who upon this earth has not?"
He turns to Greta. "Have you not?" he asks abruptly. Greta shakes her head. He turns to Yukio.
"Have you never sinned?"
Yukio struggles to understand, but he is always following Greta's lead lately, and he follows it now, shaking his head.
"I ask you, what's the greatest sin?" Lars continues. "Using my gifts to ease their pain, or knowing I can ease their pain with my gifts, but refusing to use them?"
"Ease whose pain?" Greta asks. Lars does not answer because he's too gripped by his own increasingly erratic thoughts.
"We have found God's medical box," he says. "We must open it up for all the world to see."
Molly holds a naked and floppy segment of a tree branch up before her eyes. Shiny dark green leaves and green and white flowers and circular fruits with hard orange skin like small 2-inch wide oranges.
"What's this for?" she asks.
"Nux vomica," Lars whispers, wide-eyed and mystical. He leans down to the gravedigger girl.
"Strychnine tree."
He pulls a fruit from the branch, holds it up with wonder and awe in his blue eyes.
"Magic fruit. Eat one of these whole, seeds and all, and you'll disappear from this earth and reappear in an instant at the pearl gates of heaven. Voila!"
He shakes his head.
"Extraordinary! This forest is filled with them."
Lars moves to the centre of the softly lit chamber. He speaks to his guests now, the way he spoke to halls of academics in Sydney and Melbourne. All those men who drove him out of academia with their lack of vision and petty jealousies and their cowardly reluctance to experiment.
"What an extraordinary continent we have found ourselves in," he says, holding up the orange fruit. "A place where death grows on trees."
He tosses the death fruit up in his hand and catches it.
"Is there a land in this world more in awe of oblivion? Death resides in its branches, in its rivers, in its soil. Death crawls here, and death slithers. It bites and chomps and infects and infuses. Tell me of a land more determined to kill those who would dare embrace its beauty."
Lars shakes his head, looking down again at the orange fruit in his hand. He looks back up to find his 3 guests staring at him with visible concern for his sanity. "Milk?" Greta asks. A long dark tunnel, then a corridor turning left. Another young Chinese woman standing at the entrance to what Molly assumes is the woman's cave version of a bedroom. She nods at Molly, but she does not smile. Molly catches up with Greta in the corridor.
"We feed the boy, then we leave as soon as we can," she whispers.
"It's getting dark out there, Molly," Greta says. "We need to eat, and we need to rest. He's going to let us do both, so you just remember your manners and be thankful for the kindness." Lit by candles and lanterns, Lars's dining hall is a cold, rectangular cave with several hardwood poles capped by broad beams acting as cave-in props. Its walls are scarred with pickaxe marks where hopeful miners chased gold along quartzite seams. Molly casts her eyes around the space, and the first thing she sees is a rusted candelabra hanging from the centre of the ceiling. There is a dining table below it, long enough to seat 8 people. Another upright piano rests against the wall facing her. There are lounges and armchairs, and there is a daybed made of bamboo, and there are stretcher beds made of canvas and cracked wood set out in rows. And there are people here, and they are old. 10, 12, 14 people. They look to Molly like they are wilting, like they are dissolving into their beds, their skin hanging loosely from their bones. Most of them are old Chinese men, their beards long and braided, and old Chinese women in loose black robes. There is one old Afghani man, and 3 others are European white and European wilted, laid out flat and sleeping upon the beds and lounges or upright in the armchairs and dining table chairs, with their eyelids half closed and their heads wobbling and wanting to fall into their chests. The warm yellow glow of the candles and lanterns reflects from their faces and the rock walls.
"What is this place, Greta?"
Molly whispers. "I want to leave." Greta hears the girl but keeps her eyes on Lars.
"Friends,"
Lars announces to the room.
"we have visitors."
Greta turns to the people in the room, smiling. Few of Lars's friends even register they are there. "Where did they all come from?" she asks.
"Same place you came from," Lars says. "They came out of the birth cave. They travelled far like you, but they found us here, and here they stayed."
A rattling wheeze echoes from a skeletal, elderly Chinese man lying flat and shirtless on a stretcher. He coughs and spits saliva and blood into a bowl carried by a young Chinese woman who seems to be nursing several of the men and women. Greta looks around the room. Bodies thin as glass. Chest bones sucked down into flesh by time and sickness. "They're all dying," she says. Lars nods his head.
"And they will die without pain."
He says they are the unwanted. He says they are the ones who ran to the gold, then ran further into the deep country when the government asked them to sail back home. "What do you all live on down here?" Greta asks. Then, a voice from an entrance to her right.
"Understanding,"
says a thin, slow-moving woman in her 60s or 70s, with long, straight hair as white as Lars's.
"Compassion, sacrifice, and—"
The woman hands Greta an aged glass nursing bottle.
"kindness."
The bottle has a rubber teat fixed to its top and is full of milk. Greta takes the bottle with gratitude, then gently brings the teat to the baby's mouth, and the boy's lips suck on instinct, and relief spreads across his face. The white-haired woman smiles.
"I'd say he's never had evaporated milk before," she says. "It's sweeter than what he gets from his mother." "This is my wife, Marielle,"
Lars says to Greta, who shakes Marielle's hand. "Thank you for helping us," Greta says. "I'm Greta. This is Molly. That's Yukio." Marielle casts a curious eye towards the Japanese pilot, who is standing back from the group, studying the bodies laid out across the room. "Don't worry about him," Greta says.
"He jumped out of his plane out past Candlelight Creek,"
Molly says. Marielle smiles at this fantastical story, examines the pilot standing in her makeshift cavern home.
"Why is he travelling with you?"
Marielle asks.
"He was sent to protect us,"
Molly says, sounding more defensive than she intended.
"He's our friend. That's all."
Marielle nods.
"The baby dropped out of the sky too, it seems,"
Lars says. Marielle is silent for a long moment, nodding to herself. She focuses on Greta.
"Like a gift from God,"
she says.
"A gift from the sky,"
Molly says.
"They're searching for Longcoat Bob,"
Lars says to his wife. Marielle nods slowly and gracefully.
I see,
she says. A young Chinese woman approaches Greta with a bowl of sliced apple and boiled bush yams. Marielle waves an arm towards the dining table.
Please, eat with us,
she says.
You must be so tired. You need rest.
Then she turns to Molly and smiles warmly.
You have come so far to be with us. You have seen so much.
She puts her hand under Molly's chin, stares deep into her eyes.
You carry so much with you, she says. So much pain.
They eat, surrounded by the dying. Greta and Yukio spooning up mouthfuls of hot bush onion soup that's the colour of dirty water, but tastes so good slipping down their throats and filling up their bellies that they splash it across their chins in their hurry to get more down. Yukio stuffing boiled yam chunks into his mouth with his fingers. Greta sucking on the skin of a cured eel that Lars pulled from the traps he keeps in the waterfall pool back beyond what he calls the birth cave.
The people who find us leave their old selves on the other side of that birth cave,
Lars says.
They come to us reborn at the very moment they are ready to die.
When he says things like this, Molly turns to Greta and gives an urgent and brief look that says they should leave, but Greta stays, because she is tired and she needs to rest, and she will do that tonight, even if it means sleeping among the living dead.
I know it must seem strange to you,
Lars says.
A hospice in a gold mine. But the fact remains that I achieved more in the field of plant science and pain reduction in this unlikely cave that I did in a lifetime inside a laboratory.
These people, Greta says, spooning up more of her soup. You give them things?
Yes, of course,
Lars says.
And they are grateful for it. That is why they stay. Where would these people go in Darwin? Who would look after them?
He turns to Molly.
The only help they'd ever receive is a free ride on the back of a wagon to the nearest cemetery.
Molly pecks lightly on long roasted yams that taste like sweet potato, but she reaches more frequently for a bowl of sliced wild passion fruit.
You are not having your soup?
Lars asks Molly. Molly shakes her head. I'm not hungry, she says. This is the end of CD 10. The book continues on CD 11. CD 11. An hour passes at the dining table. They eat brown, grape-sized balls of bush bee sugar bag honey for dessert. Marielle speaks of the couple's long journey into the forest. Amsterdam as young lovers. From Amsterdam to London as students of science. From London to Shanghai and back to Amsterdam, and then down into wild Australia. Greta watches the boy who fell from the sky sleeping inside a canvas sheet on the daybed beside the piano. A sleeping baby, she tells herself. Something so perfect and vulnerable in a world so deadly and cruel. Her vision is blurred briefly and she loses focus on the boy. So she rubs her eyes and considers how little sleep she has had since going on this foolhardy journey with the gravedigger girl. Foolhardy journey, she tells herself. Foolish journey, she tells herself. What on earth is an actress like Greta Mays doing in a cave for the dying in the middle of Australia's northern nowhere? Why on earth is a Japanese fighter pilot by her side? She turns to Yukio, and he smiles at her. There is a boy-like warmth to that smile. There is innocence. Greta, Yukio begins. Greta, okay? And Greta dwells on those words of Yukio's, because there is something strange about the way those words came out. The way they came out so slowly from his mouth. Then Yukio taps the fingers of his right hand and waves his fingers oddly in front of his eyes. Greta turns to Lars and Marielle, and she realizes the room is warmer. The glow of it has brightened. Lars and Marielle speak of their strange cave hospice in the deep country, how they would travel deep into this forest on research trips from Darwin, how they decided one day to simply stay put. Why go back when the forest had everything they needed?
Anyone we met in the course of our journey, we invited into the forest to join us,
Lars says.
Broken down and penniless Chinese gold miners, starved Chinese farmers who'd fled to the forest hills when the towns of the Northern Territory had no place for them. Criminals and vagrants and men with dark pasts. They all had their reasons for coming, but they all came to ease the pain, and they all found salvation here in the underground.
A young Chinese woman brings a clay jug to the table. She places 5 clay mugs on the table before Lars and Marielle, who nods permission for the girl to pour drinks for the group. Molly watches a thick, black liquid run into the mugs. It looks to her like syrup, but it's the colour of the sarsaparilla in Bert Green's lolly shop on Sugar Lane. That place of her dreams that belongs to a world that feels so far away now. She walked through that birth cave and she came out into a different time, a different world. Nothing makes sense in this new world. She looks at Greta. Even Greta seems different here. She looks at Yukio. He's staring at a rock wall and his eyes seem different. There's no more life in his face. She watches Lars sip his drink like it was breakfast tea. He closes his eyes after several sips, breathes deep. Marielle looks across the table at Greta.
Is that why you have come? She asks. Have you come to ease the pain?
Greta focuses on the question. What? She replies, and her mouth feels dry.
Why have you come to us?
Marielle asks, smiling tenderly and speaking as softly as a cloud.
Have you come to ease the pain, Greta?
Greta has an answer to this question, but she can't wrap a knot around it in her mind. She can't focus, but a name comes to her. Longcoat Bob, she says.
Greta?
Molly says. We're looking for Longcoat Bob, Greta says.
What's wrong with you, Greta?
Molly asks. She turns to Lars and points to her cup.
What is that stuff?
She asks.
It will help you sleep,
Lars says, sipping from his cup.
It will help you dream.
He turns to Greta.
You will have dreams of love,
he says.
It will take your pain away. It will drain the pain out of you, and you will sleep for 15 hours, and you will wake with a clarity of mind that you did not think possible.
Greta studies the clay mug before her. Her fingers wrap around it.
We need to go, Greta, Molly says. We need to find Longcoat Bob.
Marielle reaches a hand across the table and rests it on Molly's wrist.
I'm so sorry, Molly,
Marielle says. What? Molly asks.
I'm so sorry, child,
Marielle says mournfully.
Sorry for what?
She rubs Molly's wrist.
So much pain,
she whispers. Molly pulls her wrist from her touch. "What are you sorry for?" she asks.
"You will not find Longcoat Bob, child," Marielle says gently. "Longcoat Bob has gone from us."
Molly studies Marielle's face for a moment. The white-haired woman with the skeleton body. Her cheekbones high and the flesh on her face drawn into her mouth. "That's not true," Molly says, indignant. "That's not true. Sam said he went for a walk. He's just gone walkabout." Greta raises the mug in her right hand.
"He's dead, Molly,"
Marielle says.
"You have come all this way for nothing."
"That's a lie," Molly says. "You're lying." Lars discreetly leaves the table, walks over to the piano, sits down at it, and raises the fullboard.
"But you have found us now,"
Marielle says softly.
"You can rest now."
Lars begins to play. The Liebestrom, the love dream, gentle keys, soft notes falling into soft notes, and Greta drinks from the mug. "Don't drink that, Greta!" Molly calls, but Greta keeps drinking.
"You can all stay here,"
Marielle says.
"You can rest. You can sleep."
"I don't want to sleep here," Molly says. "I don't want to stay here." Molly turns to the pilot, but he too is drinking from his mug. "Yukio," she says, "we need to keep going."
"Do not be afraid, Molly,"
Marielle says.
"We will take the pain away. You carry too much. Too much pain for one little girl."
Then a tear forms in Greta Maze's right eye, and it runs down her cheek. She turns to the sleeping baby she saved from the deep, black water.
"Have you come to ease the pain, Greta?"
Marielle says, another tear falling down the actress's face.
"Ease the pain, Greta,"
Marielle urges.
"Ease the pain."
Greta rises gently from the dining table and she walks to the sleeping baby. "Greta, we have to go," Molly says. "I'm staying, Molly," Greta says. "I want to stop. I want to sleep." She lies down beside the infant and weeps openly now. "What's wrong with you, Greta?" Molly asks. "I'm staying, Molly," Greta says. "I can't walk with you no more." "But we need to find Longcoat Bob," Molly says. "Stop, Molly," Greta says. "Stop it. I should never have come with you." Molly stands up. "But you got us this far," she barks. "It was you who got us here." Greta shakes her head, weeping. "I'm not what you think I am," Greta says. "You don't need me, Molly. You've never needed anyone." "I need you, Greta," Molly hollers. "I need you." "You need to go home, Molly," Greta says. "We went too far in. You need to go home. You don't belong here." Molly rushes towards the bed. "I'm getting you out of here," she says, and she reaches for Greta, pulls hard at her arm. "Get away from me," Greta screams, snapping, and her anger makes her cry harder, and Molly can only step backwards from her friend in confusion. Greta turns her face back to the sleeping baby. "I won't leave you," she whispers. Yukio rises from the table, and he slowly walks over to Greta on the bed. He lies down on the other side of the boy, the child between them. "What are you doing, Yukio?" Molly asks. "It's that black stuff. They poisoned you, Yukio. They gave you poison. They're gonna make you sleep here." Molly looks at the faces of all the skin and bone men and women, dazed and sleepy and half dead and sinking into their stretchers and daybeds and worn and torn lounges. "They're gonna make you sleep here forever." Greta won't stop weeping. "They took my child," she whispers through her tears. "They took my child." Then tears fall from Yukio's eyes. 1 tear, 2 tears, then a flood. He speaks in Japanese through his tears, and he cries harder when he finishes his sentence. And Molly watches Greta reach an arm over to Yukio, and Greta leaves that tender hand on his side, and he reaches an arm over across the baby and rests his trembling hand on her side. And Molly watches these 2 strangers, her companions, her friends, her strange long-walk family, weeping together. Weeping without her, because she is the girl who cannot cry. She is the girl who was born into the curse of Longcoat Bob. She is the girl whose heart will turn to stone. Then she hears more weeping from the dining table. It is Marielle. She is staring at Greta and Yukio, tears streaming down her face. She begins to wail loudly, hysterically. "Stop it," Molly says. But Marielle keeps wailing. "Stop it," Molly says. Lars's melancholy piano notes grow louder, and then the pianist, with hair like lightning, begins to wail with his wife. "Ease the pain," Marielle howls. "Ease the pain. Ease the pain," Lars hollers. Lars's tears fall onto his piano keys, and a crazed guttural wail echoes through the orange-glow cave chamber, and this wailing seems to make the near-dead rise. The patients in their stretchers sit up and weep, and others roll and squirm in their beds, releasing their own stored-up tears, spreading infections of weeping through the room and triggering one crazed and primal bout of sobbing after another. Molly screams, "Stop it! Stop! Stop!" But the lunatic wailings only build, and they swirl around her dizzy head, and she closes her eyes and blocks her ears with her palms, and all she sees is her Uncle Aubrey now, and all she hears is his deranged howling laughter, and all she sees is his smile beneath his black moustache, his deep satisfaction rising up from the cave of his cold stone heart. She opens her eyes again, and she finds Bert, the only friend she has in this upside-down world who is not crying. He's guarding her duffel bag, which carries the rock that she pulled from the chest of her mother, where once a good and kind heart beat warmly. She grips her shovel and grips her bag, and she runs. Dig, Molly, dig. Run, Molly, run. Run from this terrible mine. Run from this terrible wailing. Run towards the night. Run towards the night sky that tells no lies. Run towards the lightning. Run, Molly, run. The owner of the waterfall. He is content because the gastric mill of his digestive tract is grinding the body of an orange-footed scrub fowl swallowed whole some way back through the vine forest. And he's almost home. The crocodile's slender, darkly speckled snout pushes through a wall of evergreen ferns whose serrated fronds barely register on his pebbled and armoured scales. He can smell the waterfall almost as well as he can hear it, and he can see it all in colour. He stops at the edge of the black pool, and his heavy, shielded triple eyelids open and close as he scans his surroundings for threats and prey. He moves his 9-foot body slowly forward to the smooth, black rocks that edge the pool. But then he stops, because his eyes have locked onto an object across the water. It is blurred to him, too far away to be clearly visible, but he registers it as a threat. And, as always, his instincts are correct. Were he to slip into the water, swim nearer him, and with his 2 eyes just above the surface, observe the object closely, he would see that it is organic. A thing of flesh and blood, with a thick moustache, wearing a black hat and sitting on a rock. A man. A shadow. In his right hand he carries a gun. In his left he holds an empty can. He's reading words roughly scribbled on a rock.
No weights of gold to measure, only scales of truth and lies, for we are living treasure under all our shimmering skies.
The man in the black hat looks up at the waterfall, stares through it to the cave behind its cascading freshwater veil. He is so transfixed by what he sees that he pays no heed to the crocodile, which remains frozen at the water's edge. Breath slow, heart slow, then retreats, quietly, through the wall of evergreen ground ferns, convinced the waterfall now belongs to a new creature of the forest. On the plain of high heaven. He dreams of Darwin. His Zero fighter plane has stopped in the centre of Smith Street, the fuel gauge reading empty. He pushes open the cockpit canopy and he can see the town's destruction. Every stone building ripped apart by bombs. A silence so heavy his own breathing sounds intrusive. No wind. No movement in the town. Only desolation. He climbs down from the cockpit and stands in the street, the only man here. The only man alive in all the world. He looks to his feet, and he sees that he's standing on a silver road, a road of glittering mica. And he walks up this straight silver road, and he turns left, and then right, and he sees that this silver road is not fringed by vine forest, but by the limbless bodies of dead Australians. Piles of bodies, hundreds of bodies, their arms and legs branching into other arms and legs, like the limbs of the sprawling and nightmarish forest trees that he saw with the gravedigger girl and the actress. Flesh and blood pavements of women and men, split by a thin silver road that he must walk down. He removes his soft pilot's helmet out of respect for the dead, but he can't bring himself to look sideways anymore, so he looks down at his boots, his war boots, crushing the silver flakes of mica as he walks and walks and walks until his boots have no more silver road to walk on because they are blocked by a bed. It's Nara's bed, and Nara lies upon it, sleeping. And Yukio Miki wants to lie down beside his wife, but his body won't move forward. His legs won't walk, and his arms won't move. He wants nothing more than to fall asleep with Nara's breath on his face, but he can only call to her. "Nara," he says. "Nara." And she wakes, and she coughs twice, because she is sick, but she smiles for him, because she is strong, and she always smiled for him like that. "Forgive me, Nara," Yukio says. "Forgive you for what, Yukio?" Nara replies. "I was coming to you," Yukio says, "but I could not leave this world." "You saw the woman in the grass." "I thought there was no more beauty left to see," he says, "but then I saw it everywhere in this strange place. There was so much of it here, I thought it must be Takamonahara." "But don't you see, Yukio," Nara says, "it is. All of it. It always has been." "I'm coming, Nara," Yukio says. "But what about the girl?" Nara asks. "The woman in the grass? The gravedigger girl, Yukio. The gravedigger girl, Yukio repeats, and he turns around to look at the ruins of Darwin Town. Rubble and dust and waste. But there are no bodies in Smith Street now. There is no Silver Road. There are only butterflies. Hundreds of white butterflies rising up to the blue sky. "Wait!" Yukio calls to the butterflies. "Wait!" But the butterflies keep rising. He wakes in sweat, his flight jacket wet with it. The bed he lies on wet with it. An orange glow. Firelight. Rock walls. A dining table. Stretcher beds and day beds and armchairs. All empty. He's the only person there. His mind is slow and his brain is heavy, trying to replay the events that placed him inside this cave. His heart races and he stands quickly and collapses immediately. But then he stands again slowly and he moves to the dining table where he recalls spooning mouthfuls of onion soup, but little else. He stumbles groggily to an opening in the rock face and he looks down the corridor beyond it, but he can see nothing in the darkness. He moves back to the other side of the cave where another opening leads to another blind corridor. "Greta Mays!" he calls in his best English, and his voice echoes down the corridor. "Molly Hook!" he calls. He finds a third opening and he rests his arm against the rock wall as he calls again, "Greta Mays!" Only his echo is returned. He breathes quick and deep. His mouth is bone dry. Only darkness in his vision. Then, far along the corridor, he sees someone, a woman, walking across the tunnel from left to right, from one side passage to another, holding a lantern up with her right arm. She moves quickly. "Hello?" Yukio calls, but the figure does not stop. Yukio barrels down the dark corridor blindly, his right hand feeling the rock wall for the entryway the lantern carrier scurried into. With his left hand, he pats the handle of his family sword, and the touch of it brings a comfort that does nothing to slow his heartbeat. His boots kick up dirt as he walks, and the corridor is cold, and the air is thick. "Hello!" he calls. His right hand finally finds a wide space. "Greta Mays!" Yukio calls. "Molly Hook!" he calls into the passageway. His feet move faster as he turns into the black void, and he keeps his hands on the walls to feel his way along the corridor. "Hello!" he hollers, the sound echoing through the tunnels. He moves faster still, because his heart beats faster still, and he cuts his hand on a sharp rock edge sticking out of the wall, and then he releases his hand from the guiding right wall and breaks into a jog. "Greta!" he screams. "Molly!" And he builds to a blind run, and then his face slams hard into a junction wall, and he has to stop and put his hands to his nose because it feels like it's about to run with blood. He breathes hard, looks up once again, looks left, looks right, but finds only darkness. Then he looks left again and sees the woman with the lantern once more, turning right into another passage, and he runs after her. "Wait!" he says. "Wait!" And he charges down the passage, and his arm reaches out for the guidance of the rock wall, and his palm finds air, and he turns right, quickly into a new passage, and he sees the lantern woman moving slowly now into a doorway, from which light spills into the darkened corridor. Yukio pads quickly to the glowing light and turns into the opening. "Greta Mays!" he barks as he enters another spacious cavern that looks almost identical to the one he just woke up in. Except there is only one large wooden bed, with no mattress here. No tables, no chairs, no stretchers, no piano. And the bed is in the centre of the space, and all the people of this troubling underworld, all the sleepers, all the half-dead, have formed a circle around it. "Shh!" says Marielle, turning from the circle to admonish the Japanese pilot.
They are dreaming.
Yukio can make no sense of the scene, and the confusion makes him ache, and the incongruity of it all makes his head throb even more than it throbbed when he woke from his dreaming. He must catch his breath, and as he does, he sees that Greta Mays is lying on the large bed, lying on her side in a deep sleep, and the baby who fell from the sky is sleeping there too, nestled in the warmth of her chest. Yukio can see now that all the men and women of the cave hold wax candles aflame, and they are watching Greta sleep, and they are whispering in Chinese, and at the head of the bed stands the piano player with the hair as white as Sakai snow in winter, scribbling his observations in a notebook with a pencil as long as his thumb. Yukio's fast-beating heart turns to fire, and a rage inside him compels him to break through the circle of cave dwellers and crawl onto the hard bed. "Greta Mays!" he screams. "Wake up!" He screams again in broken English. "Wake now! Wake now!" Two old Chinese men with thin bones and long beards reach for Yukio. "No!" one old man wails. "She is dreaming! No!" And then more of the cave dwellers reach for Yukio, tugging at his arms and shoulders and speaking in Chinese, loud and panicked. "Wake up, Greta!" Yukio hollers, his hands shaking her now. He pushes her hard and she flops over onto her back, eyes still closed.
"She will not wake,"
Lars says, matter-of-factly.
"She does not want to wake." "Why did you wake, Yukio?" Marielle asks. "You were dreaming so beautifully." Yukio shakes Greta again. More cave dwellers crowd around him, hands reaching for him. The pilot turns, and all he can do is roar, because he doesn't have the words to speak to them. He pulls his short sword from his belt, and he charges at Lars, whose bulging blue eyes are so crazed and wild they can only stare in wonder at the stranger who now raises a blade to his face and drives him hard against the cavern wall. "Back!" Yukio snarls as he tears the notebook from the old scientist's hands and throws it across the room. Yukio grits his teeth. The wild dog of his fury, the tiger of it, presses his blade tip hard against Lars's throat and lets loose a barrage of hate-filled words in his native tongue that spray against the old man's face, words about how Yukio came to this forest to escape the killing of men, but every bone in his rabid body right now is willing him to resume it. He roars and raises his elbows high and drives the blade hard and straight towards Lars's eyes, adjusting his thrust late so that the sword slices the top of the botanist's right ear and stabs through the handle loop of a gas lantern that hangs from a nail against the rock wall. Yukio lifts the lantern up with the sword blade and transfers it to his left hand before sliding his sword back into his belt. He bites on the metal lantern loop, moves to the bed, drags Greta to its edge and heaves her onto his right shoulder, adrenaline supplying the extra strength he needs to lift her dead weight. Then he reaches for a handful of the sheet that's wrapped around the baby who fell from the sky, and the baby rises with the sheet like he's sleeping in a pillowcase. "No!" wail the woozy onlookers as they circle around the pilot. Yukio kicks at them hard, thrashes his legs around wildly, driven by primal fear and primal rage, and he barges through the group and back out of the cavern's entrance, back into the black corridor, the lantern providing just enough light. "Ease the pain!" Marielle hollers after him. "Ease the pain!" And Yukio runs, because he now knows what this place is, so far from the plane of high heaven. This is the netherworld. This is Yomo no Kuni,
This is the world of darkness. This is the land of the dead. Moon Truth. She stands alone at the edge of the world. The gravedigger girl, and a high night wind behind her back, pushing her floppy brown hair, curled like her mother's, forward across her face. I will never be afraid, she tells herself, but she is. That is the truth of it. Night skies tell no lies. She is alone. That is the truth of it. She is sick in the stomach because she dragged her only friends into a hell that she made. Only her. That is the truth of it. I feel no pain, she tells herself. But she does. Night skies tell no lies. Night skies tell her the cold, hard truth that she's on her own. The gravedigger girl, in the sky-blue dress, with the shovel and the duffel bag, standing on a sandstone plateau, overlooking a valley of natural stone formations so bizarre and intricate, she wonders if they were made by the ancients. Made by the women with the quarter-lemon heads she saw back in the gallery chamber. 3 distant forks of electric blue lightning strike the moonlight horizon, and the stone valley becomes a city of giants. Men and women of stone bending and bowing and reaching for each other in the night wind. Molly tilts her head to the night sky. Star blanket with a full moon pillow. City of stone tween heaven and earth, Molly says to the night sky, and the night sky responds, the place beyond your place of birth. Molly plants her boots into a loose scree slope of sandstone rubble and begins to slide down the edge of the plateau. Where are you going, Molly? The night sky asks. I'm going to find Longcoat Bob, she replies. But you heard the woman in the cave, the night sky says. Longcoat Bob is dead. Do you believe her? Molly asks the night sky. No. Night skies tell no lies, Molly says. But why would that old woman lie to me? Because she wanted you to stay there with them. Why would they want me to stay? Because you're a good one, Molly, the night sky says. Because you're special. I'm not special, Molly says. I bring bad things to every single person I care about. That's why my grandfather locked himself away for all those years in that house. He didn't want the bad things to spread. He knew he had to be alone. Molly comes to an expanse of white rocks, a scattering of angular, chalky boulders, maybe 100 yards wide and 100 yards long. She talks to the night sky as she frog hops between the rocks, her legs moving faster than her eyes sometimes, instinctively bouncing between the flattest landing surfaces she can see in a night turned to deep blue and silver by the moon. You should turn back, the night sky says. You should go home. Home? Molly echoes. I've got no home to go to. Darwin doesn't even exist anymore. I'm not even sure if Australia does. Why are you telling me to go home? Night skies tell no lies, the night sky says. You have come too far, and you know it. You were so brave to make it this far, but you need to turn back now. You will die out here, Molly. That's the truth. But Longcoat Bob is out here, Molly says. I need to find him. What if you find Longcoat Bob and you don't like what he has to tell you? The night sky asks. Molly hops to her left, hops to her right, zigzagging over the rocks. At one point, she props Bert the shovel in the dirt floor and pole vaults between 2 high slabs of stone. What could he possibly tell me that could be worse than anything I've already been through? He'll tell you the truth like me, the night sky says. As she leaps from the last of the white rocks, she comes to 2 towering human-shaped formations, maybe 80 feet tall. Each of these segmented rock structures has a pillar for legs, a fat slab of sandstone for a torso, and a balanced ball of rock for a head. They seem to be looking down on her, and they stand like sentinels tasked for eternity with assessing all those who would pass between them into the city of stone at their backs. And she feels that they watch her as she passes between them and enters that city, a place carved by wind and time and turned into something as big as all the street blocks that make up Molly's Darwin town. Millions of years of erosion have fashioned freestanding sandstone blocks with shoulders and wonky heads that seem to be falling off their necks, and fat men pillars that seem to be leaning over in hysterics, and tall, graceful women pillars that seem to be gathering in gossip circles, and some conjoined pillars that look like twins or triplets. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them, across the entire city, as crowded together as the punters in Gordon's Don Hotel public bar on Melbourne Cup race day. Molly was always the short girl moving between all those legs, trying to find her father at the bar because she was hungry and wanted to go home and eat something. But all those tall, high-panted legs became like walls in a maze, and she would always find herself lost inside them. "Dad!" she'd scream. "Dad!" But he never heard her amid the din. And that's what this place is. Less a city than a maze. A maze of stone legs, separated by alleys of dirt and short clumps of dry speargrass. "Which way will you go, Molly?" the night sky asks. "I don't know," she says. "Go back home, Molly," the night sky says. "I'm not going back when I've come this far," she says. "I'll die out here if I have to." "I'm sure you will," the night sky says. "You'll get yourself lost in here, and nobody will ever find you. You'll waste away at the foot of one of these pillars, and the birds will peck out your eyes while you're still breathing." "Stop it!" Molly says. "You're scaring me." Night skies tell no lies, kid. Molly makes her choice. Molly makes her move. She walks into a narrow alley between 2 rows of pillars, some with 2 heads, one with a head like a dingo, one with a head shaped like an axe blade. She tells herself to follow the lightning, move forward. If she's moving forward, she is moving towards the lightning, and the lightning was striking on the other side of the stone city. If she moves forward, she won't get lost in the maze of stone legs. "No one is going to come for you, Molly," the night sky says. "Why are you saying that to me?" "Greta has turned, Molly," the night sky says. "Yukio has turned. Your mother is dead. Your mother left you here alone, and you will be alone always." "Stop it!" "Your mother abandoned you." "Stop it!" "She left you for dead, like a lame fawn, Molly. That's what happens to people with hearts of stone." "Stop it!" "She wasn't running away from them, Molly. She was running away from you." "Stop it!" And Molly darts between pillars, skirts the legs of the stone giants, moving forward in diagonals, diagonally right, diagonally left, speeding through the maze of legs, always towards the lightning that flashes ahead in the distance. But then she comes to a wall of 8, 9, 10 sandstone pillars that are joined together at the hips. She must go hard left or hard right, and she chooses hard right, and she comes to a rock shaped like a tortoise, and she pats it, because she feels that if she pats it, she will remember it if she passes it again. "Tortoise Rock," she says. She takes a hard left into another alley, and then it splits 3 ways, left, straight ahead, and right. And Molly takes the forward path because she needs to follow the lightning, and then she can only turn hard left and then hard right into an alley that runs straight for so long that she can break into a jog. And she needs to jog because she is frightened, and because in the moonlight the stone figures look like creatures bending down to curse her without words. She comes to another stone wall, and she must turn hard left, and she spots a pillar that's been severed down its middle, as if by a samurai sword, and she calls this pillar Yukio. And she pats it to remember it, and even if she passes it again and is lost, she feels that Yukio will save her the way he saved her from the tin miners so far back now in the deep country. "He's not coming for you, Molly," the night sky says. Molly's heart beating faster, her mouth dry. She runs down another alley, forward, left, forward, right, forward again. Surely she is getting closer to the city's edge. She runs and she runs and she runs, and she comes to another wall of pillars joined at the hip, and she turns hard right and passes a rock she's seen before. "Tortoise Rock!" she gasps. And she panics, and she runs faster because she feels the pillars are closing in on her now. As she did before, she takes a hard left into the alley that splits 3 ways. Left, straight ahead, right. But this time she takes the left alley, which leads past a row of S-shaped pillars like snakes rising to strike. Like the whip snakes Bert would slice up at home. Like the brown snakes that would cool themselves on the concrete floor of the laundry back home. "Home," she tells herself. "I want to go home. I want to go home," Molly tells the night sky. "Then go home," the night sky says, and Molly turns back and runs right along an alley, and she takes a hard left and then a hard right and comes to another set of snake-shaped pillars, 4 of them this time. And she runs left and right and zigs past a pillar with a small round head the size of a coconut resting on a torso the size of a large ice chest. Then she zags right alongside a pillar with a horse head, and then a pillar that curves like a crescent moon. "You are lost, Molly," the night sky says. "Stop it," Molly says, and she runs and she runs and she runs. Left and right and left again, and she comes to a wall, and she turns and comes to a wall, and turns and comes to a wall, and then she stops to breathe. She rests her head against the sandstone. She's in a box of stone legs, with only one way out, and there is no lightning to be seen, no lightning to be followed. "You are lost, Molly," the night sky says. "Nobody is coming for you. Nobody wants to help you because you are cursed." "Stop it!" This stone city has darkened. This sprawling city has shrunk. This place has turned into a cave. This is the dark place, the sad place. I know why she left you, Molly. "Shut up!" "She left you because she could not love you." "That's not true." "I know why you want to find Longcoat Bob." "Shut up! Shut up!" And Molly closes her eyes, and she's standing inside her bedroom again, and she's opening her bedroom door, and she's walking down the hallway. "He will not tell you what you want to hear, Molly." "I said, shut up!" And now she's standing in the doorway to her mother's bedroom, and the moonlight shines across her mother's face, and Violet Hook is staring at her daughter, Molly, and Violet Hook is weeping. "You want to find Longcoat Bob because you want him to tell you lies," the night sky says. You want him to say it's not true.
Stop it!
You want him to say it's not true what he did to her.
Stop it!
And the shadow wolf is moaning in the dark, and the shadow wolf is clawing at her mother. And a voice from behind whispers her name. Molly. It's the voice of Horace Hook, standing in the light of the kitchen. You want him to say, he's not the wolf.
Stop it!
And Molly Hook turns back to the bedroom to find the face of her mother in the moonlight. But it's not her face she finds. It's the moonlit face of the shadow wolf. It's the night sky face of Aubrey Hook. You want him to say he's not your father.
Stop it!
Molly screams to the night sky, and she grips Bert in her hands, and she swings hard at the sandstone wall, and Bert's blade hits it with such force that brief firework sparks pop from its edge, and Molly plants her boots in the dust and swings again, and the blade smacks against the stone, but the stone does not crack in two. So she swings again and again and again, and the stone is her past and her present and her sky and her mother and her father, and the stone is Yukio Mickey and Greta Mays, and the stone is Aubrey Hook.
Stop it!
She screams.
Stop it!
Crack! And Bert's blade snaps clean away from his long, wooden handle. The gravedigger girl beneath the night sky, holding the headless body of her only friend. She looks to the ground and finds the shovel blade in the moonlight.
Bert,
she whispers, and she falls to the dirt and speargrass floor, and she holds Bert's blade in her lap as she rests against the rock wall, and she wants to cry, but she can't because she's cursed. Your pocket, Molly, the night sky whispers, and Molly reaches into the pocket of her sky-blue dress and grips a small piece of fruit. She turns the fruit in her palm, orange and round and hard-skinned. A death she carries in her hand, a death that grows on trees in the deep country. True love is buried treasure. Yukio Mickey holds the winged brown seed capsule of a stinkwood tree. It is long and curved and shaped like an aeroplane propeller blade. He raises it high and drops it and watches it twirl as it falls, spinning fast like the propeller blades on the Zero fighter he watched crash into a sandstone escarpment and burn. That seems so long ago now that he feels it was a different man who parachuted from that death fighter compared to the one who rests now on a sandstone rock beside Greta Mays and the baby who fell from the sky. The new man who is worried for them both. The new man who woke from a long sleep. Morning sun warms his head, and he turns to it, and he finds it rising beyond a thin gravel path that leads out of the forest into stone country that spills away to the distant plateau over which he saw electric blue lightning flash in the dark early hours of the morning. A thin, freshwater stream flows by the stinkwood tree, carrying fallen seed capsules that now resemble canoes, rowing gently into the forest. Yukio wears his white undershirt because he has made a kind of crib out of his flight jacket for the baby to sleep in. He knows the boy, like Greta Mays, has slept too long, and he wonders what strange potion those white-haired people in the miner's cave might have given the infant and the actress to make them both sleep through the brute body-heaving forest trudging that brought them out of that strange monsoon vineland. He has rested Greta's head upon a pillow of rolled-up paper bark he stripped from nearby trees. Her back lies flat on a patch of soft, shaded grass beneath the stinkwood tree, whose shiny silver-brown trunk rises at least 15 meters from the ground. The wind blows, and the tree's leaves shake, and more propeller blade seed capsules twirl to earth. For the third time in the past 30 minutes, Yukio places his forefinger beneath the baby's nostrils, and for the third time he is relieved to feel the boy's soft outbreath. Yukio studies Greta's face, the curve of her cheekbones, her closed lips and their gentle contours, her chest rising and falling in the emerald dress. He looks away from her at the very moment when his heart tells him he wants to look at her forever. Zoto. Boundless, measureless, endless. He shakes his head. We must keep moving, he tells himself. We must find help for the baby. But you are the enemy, he reminds himself. They will kill you, because you killed them. He kneels now over Greta and claps his hands, hard and loud. Once, twice, 3 times. Wake! He screams. Wake, Greta Mays! He pushes her left shoulder, and her body moves, but she does not wake. He puts his fingers on her neck to find her pulse, and it throbs every second for 5 seconds. He's tired, so he lies down beside the sleeping actress. His eyes find a full sky of blue, and he begins to talk in Japanese. He speaks of his dream. He speaks of Nara, and the weeks and the months during which he watched her disintegrate. He speaks of how he saw no beauty in the world when she left, no colour anymore in the trees, and the leaves and the flowers of Sakai. No story anymore in its rivers and creeks, no joy anymore in its people. He recalls how the violent and bloody world war followed her sickness, and he felt it was right that the world should burn for letting her go. So he climbed into a fighter plane, and his hands, that once gripped wondrous knife blades in his family's workshop, now gripped gun controls, and he aimed those bullets and bombs at other men, and he cursed them all for being human, for knowing love, but not knowing what it feels like to lose it. He remembers what the gravedigger girl said in the gallery chamber, staring at the lightning man. That we are treasure buried under sky. He couldn't follow all her English words, but he could sense the timbre of her heart, the strange beat of her soul. Love is a hidden treasure too, he thinks. You meet the one the universe forged in the fire, just for you, and they bury their love deep inside you. But sometimes you don't even know it's inside you until it's ripped out of you, until it's dug up out of you like pure gold dug out of earth. The hole remains. The hole has never filled, and your blood and your soul and your joy and your life leak out of that hole until you are empty, until you are a ghost. Then he tries his English words again for Greta Mays. Digs up every last one of them that he stores in his busy mind, and he tries to explain something to the sleeping actress. He lies on his side, and he rests his head on his right elbow, and he leans in to Greta Mays's ear, and he whispers, Greta, make whole again, Yukio. Wanted to go. He looks to the sky. Yukio wanted sky. The actress is sleeping, but still she makes him nervous. Every broken word an act of release, an act of confession. I want to stay, he whispers. Clear English, near perfect English. The admission feels like a betrayal as much as it feels like the truth, and the truth of it makes him weep. I want to stay, he whispers, words between tears. I want to stay, Greta Mays! I want to stay. He wipes his eyes, rubs them, pulls himself away from the actress, standing now, ashamed, embarrassed. He walks to the stream by the stinkwood tree, and he watches the seed capsule canoes flow into the forest, rowing away. The pilot's back is turned to Greta, so he does not see her open her eyes. He does not see her looking to the sky through the branches of the stinkwood tree, her eyes slowly adjusting to the light. Her mind is processing the information of the moment. Birdsong, running water, the smell of earth and bark, the touch of the grass on her palms by her side, the beating of her heart. And her heart is absorbing the words of Yukio Miki, his whispered, broken English confession. She woke to those whispered words. They opened her eyes, but she kept them closed. The treasure he dug from deep within his heart and soul and handed to a woman he barely knows. She stands in silence, and she treads softly on the grass beneath her saddle shoes. This might still be the long dream, she tells herself, her cave-bound stupor. She turns and finds the pilot standing at the stream. Yukio doesn't hear her footsteps. To him, she only appears, as if she has come from another dimension, from that world to this one, from the vanished to the found. I just had the strangest dream, Greta says. Yukio's head is turned to his side, and his eyes are on her face, and her face is staring deep into the tangled vine forest. I dreamed that I was dreaming, she says. I didn't want to wake up from the dream. But you were beside me, Yukio. You kept waking me up. I wanted to sleep, but you kept waking me up. You didn't want me to sleep. You didn't want me to go to the dream. You kept screaming a word at me. The same word over and over. She turns to him. Stay. She steps closer to him, closer to the pilot who fell from the sky, who fell for her. She raises her left hand and her fingers brush his cheek because she needs feeling, touch, to tell her this is not the long dream. And that touch makes him close his eyes because that touch is too gentle, too caring, and so warm and filled with such feeling that he wants to pull away from it. But he will stay. Stay. Stay, he says. And he moves closer still, and their bodies are touching now, and he can feel her breathing, and he can feel her chest against his, and the curls of her hair are brushing his forehead, and he can smell her, and that smell is earth and life and future and past, and his doom and his regret for finding this stranger in this upside-down land where he is the enemy. And her cheek is brushing his cheek now, and his body and the motion inside it make him a sinner. Forgive me, Nara, he tells himself. Her skin is a landmine. Her skin is a dropped bomb. Her skin is the end of this world war, and it's the world exploding into pieces. Forgive me, Nara. And the movement in his neck is a betrayal and a truth, and the weight he shifts to his cheek to brush back against hers is a crime and a miracle and a crime. And in the violent war inside his mind, a call of retreat is made, and Greta can feel the conflict in his muscles, and he's about to pull away, but he's held in place by a single word. Stay, she whispers. and her arms wrap around him, and her sweeping lips find his temple and the bone around his left eye, and then his high cheekbone, and she breathes deep, and the motion in her body feels like meaning, and the pilot's lips touch her skin. And then a baby cries. The infant wailing of the baby who fell from the sky, and it is the sound of the baby waking from his long sleep, but also the sound of Yukio Miki and Greta Mays waking from a dream they both walked into. Greta breathes and breaks away from the embrace. She rushes to the baby, cradled in the pilot's jacket. She picks him up and draws him to her chest. "Shh," she says. "Shh." She rocks the baby in her arms. Then she looks up at the pilot. "Where's Molly?" she asks. Own all you carry. A girl's open mouth. The girl in the sky blue satin dress lying on her side in the sun. Half an orange strychnine fruit sitting in her open palm. Her eyes closed. Brown boots covered in dirt and dust. Duffel bag straps over her shoulder. She lies motionless at the foot of 4 stone pillars that look like family members standing over a crib, peering down at a newborn. The girl's name echoes across the maze of stone pillars. "Molly!" She stirs. Her left boot moves. Her left leg kinks at the knee. Her name echoes again across the stone city. "Molly!" The girl's eyes flash open. Her view is dirt and speargrass and stone. She looks up to the sun and the sky, and she finds the stone pillars of last night. They're not as threatening in the daylight, not as monstrous. She feels the fruit in her hand, and she brings it to her eyes, and she throws it at the rock wall opposite her. The fruit bounces off the sandstone and lands a few feet from the other half of the fruit that she spat out last night because it was so bitter and dry and near impossible to swallow. But she remembers how willing she was to swallow it, and she is ashamed of this. She turns to the sky. "Why did you tell me those things?" she asks, but she gets no reply. Then, her name again, echoing across the stone city. "Molly!" She knows that voice. There's projection in it. There's performance. Greta. "Molly!" She stands and runs towards the voice. She attempts to say her name, but her throat is parched, and she needs to swallow saliva twice before she can get a single word out. "Greta!" she says weakly. She runs closer to the voice. She breathes deep and summons a louder call and lets it rip across the stone city. "Greta!" she hollers. She darts left and right and ducks into alleys, running diagonally right, then veers into passages, running diagonally left, and beats her own path through the maze of stone pillars. "Molly! Greta! I'm coming!" Molly screams. Hard left, hard right, pillar after pillar after pillar. "Follow the voice," Molly tells herself. "She came for you. She cares for you, because you care for her. The heart is warmed by warming the hearts of others. You only had a stone heart to give," she thinks, but she took it anyway. Run to her, Molly. Run, Molly, run. "Molly! Greta!" Molly screams. "I can hear you! I'm coming! I'm coming!" And she runs, zigging and zagging through the maze, the voice of her friend as her compass point. "I'm coming, Greta!" Molly calls. "Keep shouting! I can hear you! I'm coming!" "Molly!" Greta calls in the distance. And the gravedigger girl smiles as she takes a blind corner around a giant pillar that stands some 50 feet tall. She takes the blind corner so fast that her boots slide on the gravel beneath her and her legs lose their footing, and she lands hard on her chest and belly, and skin rolls painfully away from her kneecaps and elbows. But she doesn't care, because Greta is close, and she pulls herself up with her hair in her eyes, and she's still bent half over when she brushes her hair back and focuses on the impossible vision of her uncle, Aubrey Hook, standing before her. The shadow. She tells herself it can't be him, standing within arm's reach of her, towering almost as high as the monster pillars surrounding him. She tells herself she's dreaming, still back there in the heart of the maze, back there sleeping with the orange fruit in her hand. She tells herself this can't be real, but she knows it is when his long, shadow fingers reach out and smother her nose and mouth. "Molly!" Greta calls, holding the baby to her chest. Sun and sweat across her face. She catches her breath at the foot of 3 pillars that look regal, like a king and queen and a younger, shorter prince sitting down at a sandstone slab that holds a palace feast. Rubble for roast chickens. Fallen stones for goblets. Yukio stands a foot behind her, studying the shapes of other rocks and pillars, committing them to memory in case they have to travel back through this god-forsaken maze. He knows they are up high now. He noticed that the stone city sits on an incline, rising to a high ridge, and when the wind blows in certain directions, he can hear water flowing in the distance ahead of them. And although they are up high, this is surely a place created in the underworld. Yomi no Kuni, he tells himself. The world of darkness must look like this. Mazes of stone monsters where creatures lurk behind every turn. A place that can't be trusted. A feeling in his bones, in his heart. A voice from the northwest, faint. "Greta!" "Molly!" Greta calls again, and she runs to the sound. "Greta, wait," Yukio says, but the actress does not stop. She only runs. Startled by the movement, the baby cries loudly, and Greta tries to calm him as she moves. "It's okay," she says in a soft and tender voice. "We're going to find Molly. We're going to find Molly." She turns left and right and left again. "Molly!" she calls. She rushes on through the maze. Her left shoulder catches on the edge of a stone pillar, tearing a hole in the sleeve of her emerald dress that is now so worn and so journeyed that it has turned a light grey from kicked-up dust and brown from the ground dirt it collected in successive nights of rough and fitful sleeps beneath stars. Yukio runs behind her, loyally following her crooked path. "Greta! Wait!" he shouts. "Come on, Yukio!" Greta calls back without stopping or turning around. "Come on! She's close!" The pilot who fell from the sky watches the actress who has woken from her long sleep, so renewed, so purposeful, so driven. He watches her legs moving, her shoes stepping between clumps of speargrass and stepping around jagged boulder heads that have fallen from pillars. He watches her dart left and right again, and he watches her stop, abruptly, in the ball of dust kicked up by her skidding shoes. He hears her inhale sharply, and he comes to her side and looks at her face. White. Ghost white. Horrified. Her full lips trembling. And he follows her gaze down a straight, narrow alley, and he discovers that the subject of her gaze is a tall, thin man with a black moustache in a wide-brimmed black hat. And there is time enough in this moment for Yukio to see that the tall man has his left forearm around Molly Hook's mouth. And there is time enough for Yukio to see the look upon the man's face. And there is time enough to know that look is one of strange satisfaction. And there is time enough to see the tall man's right arm pointing a revolver straight at Greta Mays. Molly flails her legs and pulls hard at her uncle's left arm and manages to shift it enough to squeeze 2 words out into the still air. "Run, Greta!" But Greta is frozen in this moment. She's frozen in the memory of his fists. She's frozen in the muscle memory of the journey she made to this wild land from Sydney. She's frozen in the fact that she was too young to care for the baby who was taken away from her, and how those midwives and those hospital doctors took away more than her baby that day. They took away value and pride and purpose, and they took away the notion that anyone in this world should care about Greta Baumgarten, not even herself. And so she tried to become someone else. Maybe, she thought, someone might care for Greta Mays instead. The showgirl, the public bar temptress, the punching bag, the actress. "Run, Greta!" Molly calls. But, standing beside the actress in the emerald dress, Yukio knows that all the time inside the moment is up. It's just another journey in the top end, much shorter from start to finish than Molly Hook's long walk into the deep country. Yukio turns and twists his body to stand in front of Greta and the baby in her arms. A hammer drops. A firing pin strikes the primer of a bullet. Yukio staring into the actress's eyes. Primer ignites propellant. Bang! Yukio's arms around the actress. The propellant pushes the bullet core so fast through the air that it can't be seen. Only the end of the journey can be seen. A bullet driving through the back of the pilot's white t-shirt. "No!" Greta wails. Inside that pilot's shirt is a man Greta barely knows. A stranger who fell from the sky, embracing her, shielding her, arms wrapped so tight around the actress, his cheek against hers, and he doesn't want to pull away because he is warm here, and he is home here, and he wants to stay here. But pull away he does. Blood spilling from his lips. "Run," he says. And the actress obeys, and she grips the baby to her chest and rushes through a break in a nearby wall as a second bullet cracks the sandstone mere inches above her head. And Yukio Miki falls hard into the dust. This is the end of CD 11. The book continues on CD 12. CD 12. Molly watches the sky. Keep your eyes on the sky, Molly. Keep your eyes on the sky. The sky grows darker. On Earth, the mad howling laughter of Aubrey Hook echoes across the sandstone maze. "Where are you gonna run to, Greta?" he calls, dragging the dead weight of Molly beside him in a headlock. Molly kicks hard at his shins. "Let me go!" she screams, and her fingernails dig into Aubrey's forearms, but it only makes him laugh louder. That deranged howling. That terrible reminder of Hollowwood. Molly bites his hand and Aubrey loses patience and throws the gravedigger girl with force against a sandstone pillar, and she falls hard to the earth. As she sits up, he places the revolver's barrel end hard against the top of her skull. Molly closes her eyes and tucks her head into her chest. "Please, Greta," Aubrey calls. "Show yourself, woman. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at young Molly here. Come out now, and Molly might just make it out of this alive." Molly moves her head away from the gun barrel and screams as loud as she can. Keep running, Greta! Don't worry about me! And she looks up at Aubrey, looking down at her. I'm not scared of monsters! Molly sees him smile a wide look of satisfaction, and over his shoulder she sees a way out of this. A fork of lightning. Cutlery dropped from a mansion in the sky. A sky gift for the gravedigger girl. Deep inside the maze of stone pillars, Greta scurries breathlessly along alleyways, turning and turning. The baby wails in fright, and she puts a hand over his mouth. Shh, she whispers as she runs. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The boy continues to cry beneath her muffling hand. Please be quiet. Shh. Greta is crying now too, but she keeps her weeping silent. Shh, she whispers again, as much to herself as to the baby. The endless howling of Aubrey Hook's laughter, the confidence in his voice, the whole black shadow of his being spreading across the stone city. You left me for dead, Greta, he calls across the maze. You left me for dead in that miserable God-forsaken cemetery. Stone pillars gathering around Greta, leaning over her, pressing down on her. They want to take her. They want to drag her back to Aubrey Hook, but she won't let them. She's spent from the running, spent from the crocodiles in Candlelight Creek, and the monsters in the tin mine, and the sleepers, and the dreamers, and the poison eaters inside the vine forest. She has to stop. She leans over her knees to suck in air. The baby feels so heavy. She turns in a circle looking for a place to hide, and she sees an alley running to what looks like a wall of shrubbery. And shrubbery means the edge of the forest, and the edge of the forest means a way out of the maze. So she runs down the alley, and she's almost at the forest edge when again she hears the voice of Aubrey Hook. Too close now, too close for her to make a single movement. You'll die out here alone, Greta, Aubrey calls. Show yourself. Greta crouches down, presses her back against a stone wall. Even the baby senses the danger in Aubrey's voice, and he stays silent, though Greta does not remove her hand from his mouth. I won't hurt you, Aubrey calls. I love you, Greta. Even closer now. Greta realizes he must be on the other side of the very stone wall she is leaning against, with her knees up to her chest where the baby rests. She can hear Aubrey's footsteps, his boots on the gravel. She shuffles along the stone wall towards the forest edge until she runs out of wall. She cannot move any further, can only listen to his footsteps coming closer to her. One more corner for him to turn, and Greta Mays will be lost again in the shadow of Aubrey Hook. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Greta breathes deep to hold her silence in. Are you there, Greta? Aubrey calls. I know you're there, Greta. Then, the voice of Molly Hook. Stop it, she says, flatly. Let her go, Molly says. Let her go, and I'll take you to Longcoat Bob's gold. I know exactly where it is, Uncle Aubrey. You can have it all. You can have everything you've ever wanted. But you can't have her. Silence now, in the city of stone. Aubrey Hook, turning to face Molly. And how will you find Longcoat Bob's gold out here? He asks. I'll follow the lightning, Molly says. Aubrey turns just in time to see a fork of lightning shooting down from the gathering storm clouds. He turns back to Molly, points his revolver at her heart. Walk, he says. Pressed against the sandstone wall, Greta waits for the sound of Aubrey's boots to fade. Then, she scampers low to the edge of the maze, a wall of scrubs with white fruits, and she ducks down into them with the baby at her chest, and she crawls and crawls to the only safety she has now, the safety of the vine forest. but she's moving so fast and so frantically that she doesn't see that the shrubs screen a sharp gully slope. And as she pushes face first through the final layer of shrubs, she drops down this unseen slope, and it takes every ounce of her strength to roll to one side and hug the baby to her chest as she shoulder slides on loose leaves and dirt and grass to the gully floor, which she hits with a thud. Her view from the gully floor is of yellow flame trees, a cluster of floral fire lit by a kind of yellow Greta once thought she would see only in her dreams. But there is still danger in this gully. Footsteps, someone padding across the forest floor. Someone so close there is no use in moving. And she resigns herself to the shadow of Aubrey Hook. He heard her in the shrubbery, she tells herself, and he followed her down the gully. She was foolish to think she could ever escape him. The footsteps stop. Silence in the forest. Then a man leans into her view, blocking the fire of the flame trees. An old man. Black skin. A very old man. Grey hair. And a long, black, military coat with gold trim, the colour of the leaves on a yellow flame tree. Carry all you own. The blue sky over Darwin saw too much, she tells herself. It could not understand the horrors it witnessed, and it ran away with the wind to think on them. The sky is grey now, and the grey sky will not speak to Molly. A gunpoint walk across sandstone, rubble and earth, her dig boots on rock, her sky blue dress, her Uncle Aubrey a few paces behind her, a hand inside her duffel bag. Follow the lightning. Yellow forks dropped from mansions in the sky. The crashing lightning, but still no rain. The sky can wallop, but it cannot weep. She wants to go above it now. She wants to go beyond the sky to where her mother is and where her grandfather Tom Berry could tell her the true story of the long walk, and she could look into his face and see when he was lying. She places a palm against her chest. Her fingers feel for her heart, push down on her chest. I do not fear death, she tells herself. And if she does not fear death, if there is a part of her that wants her uncle to end it all here with a bullet in the back of her head, then surely her heart has finally turned all the way to stone. The curse is complete, she tells herself. No blue sky to tell me any different. No blue sky to tell me lies I want to hear. Only grey sky truth. She had to leave, she tells herself. She had to escape. Mum could not stay. She could not live with the grey sky truth. She could not stay with... Stop there, Aubrey Hook instructs Molly. Him. They stand at the edge of the maze. The lightning has led them out. A high sandstone plateau, tree-lined edges falling away on either side to canyons far below. Only one direction to go now, straight ahead. They can hear water, fast water, rapids. Aubrey stands alongside Molly. He holds Tom Berry's gold miner's pan in his hands. He runs a finger along the back of the pan, the final line. Own all you carry. Carry all you own. Step inside your heart of stone. What does that mean? Aubrey asks. You wouldn't understand it, Molly says. You have to be graceful to understand it. You have to be poetic. Aubrey places his right hand on the back of Molly's neck. He squeezes hard. Let me try to understand, he whispers. He shakes her hard. Molly says nothing. What does it mean? Aubrey barks through clenched teeth. He pushes her head closer to the pan. Molly reads the words. Own all you carry. Carry all you own. Step inside your heart of stone.
It means we face the truth of who we are, Uncle Aubrey, she says. Everything you have ever done and everything you will ever do, you must own it. Because you are those things. You carry those things with you. My grandfather knew this. My grandfather knew the person he had become. He couldn't escape it. Wherever he went, he had to carry himself with him.
She looks up into Aubrey's eyes. You must own all you carry too, Uncle Aubrey, she says. Step inside your heart of stone. You must embrace it now. Step inside it. You are the heart of stone. Where's the gold? He asks, impatient. All you've ever wanted was treasure, Molly says. Where is it? Aubrey barks. My mum was treasure, she says. She glowed. She was like the glowing. She made you gold sick, so sick that you had to have her. Where is it? Aubrey barks. Molly looks across the plateau to a path that climbs to a ridgeline running across the horizon. It's just beyond that ridge, Molly says. Aubrey steps back and points the handgun at the space between Molly's eyes. Walk, he says. They pass boulders in piles and boulders standing alone. One shaped like a hot air balloon, another like a tractor wheel. The gravedigger girl and the shadow walk beneath the grey sky. 1/2 mile. 1 full mile into a high range. Angular, pyramidal shapes and jagged edges that remind Molly of the thorny devil lizards she once saw with her father in the central deserts beyond Tennant Creek. The path bends around a series of broken ridges that remind Molly of the meat-tearing canine teeth of the stray dogs of Darwintown. Then it curls dangerously along the right edge of an exposed plateau, and Molly stops to assess the drop to the canyon below. She kicks a red-coloured rock and she leans over the edge of the plateau to watch it bounce 3 times down an almost sheer rock face and disappear into a vine forest canopy maybe 100 yards below them. The path narrows to less than a foot wide as it skirts a granite ridge that blocks their passage to the other side of the sprawling range. Keep moving, Aubrey says.
The path's not wide enough,
Molly says, studying it. Loose rocks and yellow dirt drop away sharply.
This is a path for rock wallabies, not grave diggers, she says. We gotta turn back.
Walk, Aubrey says. Molly turns her head right and peers into the canyon below, her cold skin telling her to turn back to the rock face on her left. She turns that way and hugs the ridge wall as she steps sideways, one slow and sure foot after the other, along the narrow path, her uncle following close behind. Pressing her chest against the rock, she feels for handholds but finds only smooth grey granite. She keeps shuffling along, boot after boot after boot. And then, one of those boots steps on a loose rock, and Molly slips, and she feels her body part from the rock face. Her arms flail, trying to find something to take hold of, but all she can grip in her fists is air, and her body falls backwards towards the canyon below. Then, a hand wraps around her left wrist as she falls, and all the weight of the gravedigger girl is dangling from the bony left arm of Aubrey Hook, who screams in pain as the girl's weight pulls on the festering wound from his brother's rabid dog bite back in godforsaken Hollow Wood Cemetery. Aubrey's agonised wailing echoes across the canyon, and he closes his eyes to fight the pain, and when he opens them again, he's staring into the eyes of Molly Hook. Own all you carry, he tells himself. Carry all you own. The eyes of Molly Hook. Lift her up, he tells himself. Let her go, he tells himself. Step inside your heart of stone, he tells himself. The girl offers nothing. The girl, he tells himself, is ready to fall. Then, Molly poses a question he has never asked himself.
"Why could you not love me?"
she asks. Such calm in the way she asks it. Such ease in the way she hangs from his hand. Let her fall, he thinks. Lift her up, he thinks. And he howls as he lifts the gravedigger girl back up to the narrow path. As he drops her, he catches his breath, and she does too, her body pressed flat against the hard granite wall. Walk, he whispers. They march across a tableland of red sandstone, studded with clusters of ironwood and paperbark trees. The stone is cracked and layered, forming natural steps in places and wide slabs that look like theatre stages, where Greta Mays could perform all 5 acts of The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. Molly hopes Greta Mays made it out of the maze. She hopes she's on her way back to Darwin now. I never should have mentioned the gold pan map to her, she thinks. I never should have dragged her through the darkness of Candlelight Creek. Never dragged her through the colourful wonders of the floodplains. Yukio, Molly says to herself. She wishes Yukio Miki had never fallen from the sky. And if she has a stone heart inside her, it's fracturing and cracking in two. It is useless to her now. Rock is not hard. Rock is brittle. Rock is weak.
"Rapids,"
Molly says. She hears them first, then she sees them. They have come to an open expanse of rugged sandstone, cut deep by 2 parallel rivers, tumbling down from higher up the range on Molly's left. Their white waters rushing through narrow gorges towards the eastern edge of the plateau. Molly steps towards the first gorge and feels the spray from the water slamming against rocks. The gorge is about 15 yards wide, and there is only one place where it can be crossed. A thin, makeshift bridge made of 4 slender eucalypt trunks tied together with thick vine. The bridge is not fixed in place, its ends simply resting on the rock, and with the rapids roaring no more than 6 feet below them, the tree trunks have turned slimy and black and slippery. Molly walks to the start of the bridge and turns around to look tentatively at Aubrey. Walk, he says, not feeling the need yet to point the handgun at Molly. Molly steps carefully onto the bridge. She puts her arms out to balance herself and she shifts some weight onto her left leg to test the integrity of the structure, which tilts and bends even under her modest weight. But she walks on, boot after boot after boot, and the tree trunks bear her weight. Halfway across, though, she makes the mistake of looking down, and she is momentarily transfixed by the rapid's power. The deadly confusion of all that pressure, and all that water, and all that rock in a meeting that has lasted millennia. Her legs wobble briefly, but she looks up and focuses on the end of the bridge, and her balance is restored. She's so frightened and in such a hurry to get off the tree trunk platform that she shuffle runs across the last 6 feet or so. Reaching solid ground, she exhales and closes her eyes before turning round to watch Aubrey make his unsteady way across. She asks things of the water. Take him down. Take him down, down, down into the black. She watches him step awkwardly to the centre of the bridge. Then she looks down at her end of it. She could heave that end up and tip the whole bridge into the water, and Aubrey Hook would be tossed in with it. He would be sucked over the side of the range, and his shadow would never cross her light again. "Get back!" Aubrey calls from the bridge, pointing his gun at Molly. "Right back!" Molly retreats as Aubrey advances to the end of the bridge. "Walk," he says. It's a short walk across stone to the second river, where the bridge is made of just 3 eucalypts, but the crossing is only 10 yards wide. The gravedigger girl steps carefully across it. On the other side, the plateau ends at a narrow sandstone promontory. It's oval and featureless. There is nothing here. There is nothing but rock and air and sheer drops on all sides. To her left, she can look over the edge and see the rivers dropping down the side of the range, then merging and running beneath a majestic rock arch. To her right, she can see another river system being sucked into a narrow valley that, she thinks, must push the water on down the range so that it can end with a curtain call bow at one of those spectacular waterfalls that spills into the kind of crystal pools that only exist in dreams. Dreams that unfold in colour, far above the grey sky. And from that grey sky, the lightning strikes again, and the wild and terrifying grandeur of this strange place wraps itself around the gravedigger girl. The dream of it. A paradise for her light and for her black shadow. A city of elaborate ancient rock architecture, threaded by rivers that twist and turn and dive deep into black holes. The promontory feels like the central point of all this natural wonder, and she turns in a circle to drink in the cave dwellings she can see on a distant cliff face. The rainbow-coloured and red and black velvet birds flying in circles around her. These birds call as if they are welcoming her, as if they are congratulating her for coming so far into the deep country. She breathes deep, and she smells the rapids, and she senses the earth shifting deep, deep, deep underground. And she feels the electric air that turns like this only when it's about to storm in the north of a raw southern land. And the lightning man in the sky mansion bends the rods down from his ears, and the forks of his magic seem to strike directly above Molly Hook's head. And the wind blows her hair across her face, and it blows the hemline on her sky-blue dress, and the grey sky wants to weep so hard that the gravedigger girl can feel it in her cold bones. And she looks ahead, across the rough surface of the narrow promontory, and she can see now where she must go. So she starts walking towards the edge of the plateau, some 20 yards in front of her. "Where the hell do we go now?" Aubrey barks behind her, but the volume of his voice has been turned down by the wind in Molly's ears. Her eyes straight ahead, her eyes fixed on the end of the promontory. "What the hell are you staring at?" Aubrey calls to her, and the wind blows so hard now against Molly that it's an effort to walk forward, and she has to push her slight frame on. "Where on earth do you think you're going?" Aubrey shouts. He watches the gravedigger girl walk slowly across the flat rock. She seems transfixed by something, mesmerised by a sight he cannot see. All he sees is the deep country below them. All he sees are the edges and Molly Hook walking towards the void. Her boots occasionally lose their footing on the uneven surface, but she keeps going. Her hands gripping her chest, her palms over her heart. "Get back here, Molly!" Aubrey hollers through the wind. She's following in the footsteps of her mother, he tells himself. A berry through and through, he tells himself. He raises the gun. "You don't get out that easy!" he shouts. The girl keeps walking. Aubrey fires a warning shot above Molly's head. Molly freezes. Aubrey can see she is still a yard or two from the end of the plateau. Molly turns around. "Not until you've found my gold!" Aubrey calls, his pistol pointed at her chest. The wind blowing the curls of her dusty brown hair across her face. "I wrote a poem, Uncle Aubrey," Molly says. "It's about you, and it's about me, and Mum. It's a beautiful poem, Uncle Aubrey. It's graceful. She looks up at the grey sky.
It's called We Are Treasure Buried by the Sky.
And Aubrey Hook watches the gravedigger girl turn around again, and then he watches her disappear into the rock surface. She simply vanishes, not over the edge, but into the very rock itself. And for a moment, Aubrey Hook believes in magic. For this trick must be the work of Longcoat Bob, or the work of the spirits, because children don't just vanish into sandstone. He lowers his gun, and, confused, dumbfounded, edges slowly forward to the place where Molly Hook disappeared. And he sees now that she was standing above a cavity, a hole in the rock that drops into blackness, roughly 10 feet wide and 10 feet long. A bizarre eroded opening with the most uncommon shape. Aubrey Hook recognizes that shape immediately. It's the shape of a human heart. She did it, he thinks. She stepped inside her heart of stone. She sits in a bed of dirt, nursing an ankle that twisted and almost broke when she landed. She sits inside a rock cave, looking up to a ceiling as high as the ceiling in the cemetery house in Hollywood. She looks through the hole in this ceiling, and that hole is the shape of a heart. A heart framing nothing but grey sky. The outline is rough, but plain as day, like the hearts she has seen tattooed on the arms of singlet-wearing soldiers and farmers in the pubs along Smith Street. A fiction heart. An artist's version of a heart. The kind of heart shape you draw an arrow through. She turns her head and sees an opening where more light is shining in. A natural archway at the bottom of a short, downward slope. An access point, not much bigger than the door of any Darwin house, that suggests there are other ways to enter the belly of this strange rock formation than from a hole in its roof. Her hands run along the dirt floor, and she finds several rocks that are cold to the touch. Then she finds more rocks, sitting on top of these rocks, and more on top of those. A whole pile of rocks. 1 or 2 the size of honeydew melons. Some the size of mangoes, some the size of cricket balls. Then, a sound from the cave roof. "Make yourself scarce," Aubrey Hook calls. She looks up to see him standing in the grey skylight. He's looking down into the darkness, his eyes finding the shape of the girl below. He drops Molly's duffel bag through the hole, and he uses the bag's thump to gauge the distance to the ground. He doesn't step into the hole like Molly did, but slides into it like he used to slide into the sacred graves of Hollywood. Clinging now to as much ceiling rock as he can, leaving his legs to dangle in the black air before dropping down to the unseen floor he can only hope exists. He falls hard on the earth, and his legs collapse, and his side slams into the pile of rock that Molly just ran her hands over. The pain in his shoulder causes him to howl, and the howl bounces between the walls of the cave. Aubrey breathes deep, a wheezing in his lungs. Molly can't see him clearly, too dark, but she can smell him. The alcohol still leaching out with his sweat. The odour of tobacco in his clothes and from his mouth. He's running his hands frantically across the rocks he tumbled onto. Now the smell of naphtha fluid. The flash of the turning flint on Aubrey's worn metal cigarette lighter. Flash and flame. The small lighter flame inside the cave. And then, his face lighting up. His black eyes. The flame shimmering against his black eyes, and Molly sees something in those eyes. A kind of dark wonder across them. A fever. He feels it before he sees it. The tingle of it runs from the base of his spine to its top. He swings the lighter over the pile of rocks, and the rocks bounce light back at him. A gold light. a vivid and wondrous and fevered gold light from the patches of precious gold metal inside these rocks. The lighter flame roams across the pile of rocks, and Aubrey allows himself a smile. A pile of gold ore. Rough gold nuggets in hard rock casings. Flashes of their wondrous gold light demanding to be exposed to the world. Even Molly feels the glowing. Some nuggets are so exposed and pure already that they look to Molly like large clumps of roughly torn honeycomb. Like stuff she could pull from holes in trees. The precious gold stuff Aubrey will pull from the heart of stone and carry back to Darwin as a new man. He will be transformed by the deep country, and the twinkle of his eyes and the shine of his shoes will say nothing of the blackness inside him. Aubrey tries to count them all. 30 gold nuggets, 40 nuggets, but he loses count. And he allows himself a giggle. And that giggle turns to a laugh, and that laugh turns to a howl that echoes through the cave. Molly has seen that look upon Uncle Aubrey's face before. It's a look of satisfaction. He turns to Molly and howls, and the girl brings her knees to her chest, and she wraps her arms around her legs, studying the fevered man before her. Howl, howl, howl. That deranged howling from deep inside his white spirit stomach. The noise that is made when the tectonic plates in the stone of his heart rub against each other. Howl, howl, howl. Aubrey stands and rushes, breathless and panting, through the arched opening. His eyes adjust to the light, and he sees that the cave opens onto a sandy clearing, fringed by black wattle trees and native nutmeg trees and patches of vine forest. He looks back up to find that he is now standing below the high promontory where he and Molly stood minutes earlier. To his right is another rushing waterway, crossed by another makeshift bridge of eucalypt trunks, and to his left he sees a narrow path that disappears between rock walls. 2 ways out of the clearing. He rushes back into the cave, picks up Molly's duffel bag and dumps the contents in the dirt. The gold miner's pan that started all of this, Shakespeare's life's work, the red rock that Molly pulled from her mother's chest, the red heart of Violet Hook that turned to stone. Aubrey frantically fills the duffel bag with the nuggets that shine brightest in the flamelight. Less rock, more precious metal. Smaller nuggets that might weigh 10 pounds, larger ones of maybe 20 pounds, and even a few he's certain are heavier than 30 in his hand. He's working with such urgency that he pays no mind to Molly when she reaches her hands across the floor in search of the rock she pulled from her mum's chest. Violet's rock. But she finds something else instead. Something that cuts her forefinger when she tries to grip it in the darkness. The paring knife. She crawls along the dirt floor with the knife, and her left hand finds her mother's rock, and she has all she cares about. So she crawls into a space against the cave wall, and this space has a view up to the grey sky through the heart of stone. And she asks the sky for just one more gift. A fork of lightning to stab through that hole and burn Aubrey Hook to cinder. A bomb from a death plane. The same kind that tore Horace Hook in two and wedged him inside a tree. A long-lost mother with curled brown hair to come and take her away from the shadow. Take her away from him. Aubrey slips a total of 10 gold nuggets into the duffel bag and braces his legs as he tests the weight. He strains. He feels a vein in his right temple about to pop, but the gold fever gives him strength. He manages to haul the bag over his shoulder and, satisfied he can bear the weight of all this found gold, he carries it out of the cave and drops it in the centre of the sandstone clearing. He then marches hurriedly back into the cave and picks up one of the largest nuggets, a hunk of gold-heavy ore shaped like a bull's head that must weigh 40 pounds or more. He drops it at Molly Hook's feet. "I'll carry the bag," he says. "You carry this one." Molly holds her mother's red rock in both hands. "No," she says. "Come on, child. Let's go," he says. "Pick up the rock." "No." "You will carry that rock out of here, or you won't be going out at all," Aubrey says. Aubrey stands over her now. His black hat and his black shadow face fill the heart-shaped skylight. "I don't fear death," she thinks. "I have a heart of rock." Molly shakes her head. "No," she says. Aubrey takes the pistol from the back of his trouser belt, points it at Molly, casts his eyes briefly around the dark cave. "Then I guess this hole is the last grave you'll ever dig yourself into," he says. His right forefinger slips across the trigger. Molly looks past the gun to the sky above the shadow's head, and the frame of grey sky now fills with the frame of Yukio Miki. The Sky Gift pilot wobbling, groggy and spent, and living and dying, his family's sacred short sword in his right hand, his eyes struggling to fix on the shadows moving in the darkness below him. Aubrey Hook and his long and bony trigger finger. Then Molly holds the red rock up with two hands. She presents it to Aubrey, presents it to the sky. There is little light flowing in through the heart-shaped frame, but all of it catches the colour of the rock, the colour of blood. The girl holds the rock as if it is a source of power, as if it is some kind of magic shield forged inside her dead mother's chest that could somehow protect her from a bullet. Her mother's stone heart. Her mother's heart. She holds it there. She holds it there. She holds it there. "Why couldn't you love me?" she whispers, and Aubrey Hook is momentarily entranced by the rock's colour. He's taken with it. He's frozen by it, and a long, buried truth is briefly revealed in his voice. An honesty exposed to the light of day, a flash of gold in the broken ore of his life. "She wouldn't let me," he says, his eyes on the rock, his finger on the trigger, his eyes on the rock, his finger on the trigger. Then Molly drops the red rock and grips the paring knife she holds in her hands behind it, and she lunges forward, and she screams as she brings her hands down hard, driving the short blade into Aubrey's right thigh. And Yukio drops blindly through the hole, the near-dead weight of his body landing heavily on Aubrey's shoulders. His sword spills from his hand on impact, but he keeps a grip on Aubrey's neck, his left arm around the older man's throat, and his right arm already reaching for the pistol that Aubrey instinctively tries to bring to the head of his impossible assailant. Aubrey still has Molly's paring knife stuck in his thigh when he rushes blindly backwards and slams Yukio's back into the cave wall. There's a bullet still resting in Yukio's back, and the cave wall meets its point of entry, and the pilot screams in agony, but he will not release his grip. Aubrey is a wild dog now. He roars, saliva and sweat and blood and bruising across his face. He charges sideways, driving Yukio towards the arched opening. Molly scrambles along the floor, her hands searching blindly in the darkness for the short sword. Aubrey roars again as he builds to a run, and he carries the pilot like a wheat sack, and he drives himself and his assailant hard against another wall, and the men bounce off this wall and stumble into a roll that spins them out of the cave, where they land hard on the rough rock of the sandstone clearing just beside Aubrey's bag of gold. The sound of the full river running alongside them. It's whitewater spray. The pilot has fate on his side, and he has Nara, and he ends the tumble with his weight on top of Aubrey Hook, and he can grip the gravedigger's pistol hand well enough now to smash it 3 times against the bag of gold. And then he watches the weapon bounce across the ground. Then Aubrey twists hard and fast, and the men roll twice again across the sandstone, and in the chaos of their movements they do not see that the gun has landed only a yard from two black, bare feet poking out of a pair of brown slacks. Aubrey slips a hand free and reaches for the paring knife still stuck in his thigh. He pulls it from his flesh and shoves the blade into the side of Yukio Miki's stomach. What little strength the pilot has left in his arms now abandons him. Aubrey turns him over easily and reaches again for the blade sticking out of Yukio's belly. He pulls the blade out and he breathes deep and hard and he raises the blade over Yukio's heart. And the only thing that stops him from driving the short knife down into the pilot's chest are the words of a 16-year-old Aboriginal buffalo hunter named Sam Greenway. "Hold up there, fella." Aubrey turns to his left to find a pistol pointing at his head. The young man's face is covered in faded strips of white paint. He's shirtless and barefoot, and in his left hand he carries a long, carved wooden spear, almost twice his height. Across his chest are more white lines that rise and bend like fountain water over his shoulders and arms. "Sam!" says Molly, standing now at the entrance to the cave, the short sword in her hands, momentarily dazed by the sight of him. Tyrone Power by way of Mataranka, her cowboy carrying a spear and a gun. She wanted to say his name louder, but it came out so soft, so beaten. "You all right, Mo?" Sam asks. Molly has no answer to that. She can only turn silently to Aubrey, sitting atop her friend, who fell from the sky. "This fella hurt you, Mo?" Sam asks. Molly has no answer to that one either. Too dazed, too spent. She sees movement to her left. 4 more Aboriginal men, a similar age to Sam Greenway, emerging from the path between the 2 rock walls on the left side of the clearing. Same faded paint across their faces and across their chests. Same spears in their hands. The young men say things to Sam in their own language. Sam says things back to them, and the young men hiss. One young man taps his spear twice on the ground. "You want me to plug this fella for you, Mo?" Sam asks. Molly is silent. She doesn't take her eyes off Aubrey. "Get away from Yukio," she says to him. The gravedigger drops his head and smiles. He takes his time to adjust his skewed black hat, then he stands, confidently shaking his head. He steps back from Yukio, and Molly rushes to the bleeding pilot. His head is limply turned to the side, blood across his belly, a line of blood running from his mouth. Molly kneels down beside him, and she places her hand over the leaking knife wound. "I'm sorry, Yukio," she says. "I should never have led you here." Sam keeps the pistol trained on Aubrey, who holds his arms out with the paring knife still in his right hand, staring down the young man with the gun. "You even know how to work one of those, black fella?" Aubrey asks. "You ever held a white man's weapon, eh, black fella? You ever come across one of those on walkabout?" Aubrey chuckles to himself. "You better not miss, boy." And he firms his grip on the knife in his fist. Then, Sam points the gun at a spot on the ground about 3 feet to the left of Aubrey and 6 feet or so behind him. "And you'd better pick up that hat," Sam says. Aubrey glances at the spot where Sam is pointing. "What hat?" Aubrey asks, puzzled. With lightning speed, Sam fires a shot that blows Aubrey's hat off his head and lands it in the very place Sam was indicating. "That hat," Sam says. Then he looks Aubrey in the eye as he spins the pistol round his finger like a Wild West circus act, stopping the spin twice to aim the weapon threateningly at his target's forehead before resuming the showy gunplay. Sam's barefoot friends laugh at the gravedigger's expense, but their elbow-nudging chuckles are silenced when the old Aboriginal man in the black and faded French admiral's frock coat emerges from the path between the 2 rock walls. Molly gasps. "Longcoat Bob," she whispers. The old man's wild grey hair. So many lines across his face. The crevices in his cheeks are the cracks in all the rocks Molly saw along her journey into the deep country. Longcoat Bob's country. The scarring across his chest. Each line of it a rapid river running through this treacherous paradise. The long fingers by his sides. The fingers that pointed at her grandfather all those years ago. The fingers that called him out. "Stone Heart," Bob said. "Stone Heart." Molly turns to Yukio and whispers in his ear, "It's Longcoat Bob, Yukio. He's a medicine man. I'm going to ask him to save you. He can save you, Yukio." She grips Yukio's hand. She grips it to her chest. "Just hold on. Don't go anywhere. Just hold on. Please. Please hold on." The old man pats Sam's shoulder, and that's all that's required to make the young man with the gun step back respectfully. Longcoat Bob runs his deep and watery and grey eyes over the scene. The girl nursing the foreigner on the ground. The duffel bag filled with nuggets. The tall man with the knife in his hand. He points at the duffel bag. "Them rocks," he says, and he speaks softly, but so clearly that all the heads in the clearing, including Molly's, turn towards him. "No good." "I found those rocks myself," Aubrey Hook says. "I see no claims on them. They are mine to take as I please." Longcoat Bob studies the tall man's face, looks deep into those black eyes, deep into that tired shadow. "Then you must carry all you own," he says, and he holds an open palm towards the bridge of eucalypt trunks stretching across the raging river. "Go." Aubrey Hook is temporarily stunned by the word. He said go. He tells himself, "Walk out of here. Take your gold and leave. Go back to Darwin and build your mansion by the sea. Go back to Darwin and smile down on every last publican who kicked you out of a bar. Smile down on every last woman who rejected your advances. Smile down on every last bank manager and stone supplier and tool salesman who said your money was no good. Smile down on the woman who was meant to love you but didn't. Go," he said. Aubrey slips the paring knife into the back of his belt. He slowly moves across to his shot hat and takes his time to place it back upon his head. Then he walks over to the duffel bag filled with raw and heavy gold. He squats and braces his back, and his veins pulse beneath his sweaty skin as he strains to lift the bag over his shoulder. When the bag is up, he turns on his heels and passes Molly without a single glance in her direction on his way to the bridge, the only exit from the clearing that is open to him. At the foot of the bridge, he is stopped by the voice of Longcoat Bob. "You must carry all you own," the old man says, "but you must own all you carry." Aubrey stares into the old man's eyes, and he is cold now, even on a day as humid as this one. Movement now, behind Longcoat Bob. Sam's friends start talking in their own language to 3 Aboriginal women who have emerged from the path between the 2 rock walls. One of them is old, with hair as grey as Longcoat Bob's. And this woman carries the baby boy who fell from the sky. Then Molly Hook's eyes find another woman emerging from the pathway. A blonde who was born for moving pictures, who wears an emerald dress, has curls like a crashed wave falling across her ear. "Greta!" Molly hollers because she can't help herself. There is relief in that name. There is love in it even more. But Greta does not turn to Molly Hook because she is transfixed by the sight of Aubrey. They stare silently at each other for too long. Molly wants him to go. Just go. Stop staring at him, she thinks. He doesn't deserve anything from you, Greta. He doesn't deserve a single look from those silver screen eyes. Look away from him, Greta. Just look away and he'll go. But she does not shift her gaze. She doesn't even blink. And the Shadow Man is allowed to speak, though he only says a single word. "We," he says, and then he stops. He says no more. He smiles, and he drops his head and turns to cross the bridge. Aubrey steps gingerly onto 3 slender eucalypt trunks made black and slimy by the spray from the rapids below. Boot after boot after boot. The bridge bends under the weight of the gold on his shoulder, and Molly watches him pause. He puts another foot forward, and the bridge still bends, but it holds his weight, and the gold's weight too. Only 6 or 7 more yards to the end of the bridge, he thinks. There are butterflies in his stomach, and he can feel the glowing from the gold inside the duffel bag. The glorious glowing. The only thing he has ever needed. Boot after boot after boot. Almost at the middle now, and almost home to Darwin, and almost home to that life with the gold, that life lived inside the glowing. Another step, and the bridge bends alarmingly. A crack from the wood beneath him, so loud that everyone can hear it over the roar of the raging rapids. Aubrey takes a single, cautious step backwards. But then the wood beneath him cracks again, and the bridge drops lower, and the gravedigger freezes. He brings the duffel bag down to his chest, slowly retrieves a large nugget of gold and drops it into the water to lighten his load. He watches the glow fade in the water, and his heart aches to see it disappear like that. And the loss fills him with fury, and the fury fills him with fearlessness, and he takes another step forward across the bridge, and the bridge does not crack, but it cracks on his next step, and it drops closer to the river. So he takes another nugget from the bag and drops it in the water, and it sinks quickly to the river floor. But this does not stop the bridge from bending further, and it is clearly close to its breaking point now, and Aubrey is forced by instinct to turn around and run back towards the safety of the clearing's rocky ground, in the direction of the Heartstone Cave, where the gravedigger girl stands up like a stone pillar and watches his pitiful dilemma from the safety of a hard, rocky earth. But as he does so, the tree emits one final, loud, merciless crack. Aubrey Hook stops and stands upright like a figure made of stone, motionless. And to Molly's eyes, even the river turns to stone. The sky above him, the black wattle trees surrounding him, the birds in the air, everything still. No more movement, but for the black eyes of the Shadow Man in the black, wide-brimmed hat, turning in their sockets to find the girl who brought him here. The girl who put him on this breaking bridge. And Molly tries to understand the look upon his face, but she cannot understand it, because it is a look she has not yet read upon the face of Aubrey Hook. A white-faced look so far from satisfaction. "Molly!" he pleads. And he wants to reach out for her, because he wants the girl to save him. But he can't reach for anything with such a heavy bag of gold in his arms. And the bridge gives up. It splits in half, and Aubrey Hook is just 2 yards from its end when he falls into the rapids, and his eyes are still open underwater as the river thrashes him back and forth and upside down. And the last thing he sees before the darkness is the glowing of his gold nuggets being flung from the open duffel bag that he refuses to let go of. The glowing. The glorious glowing. "Yukio!" Greta calls. She rushes to the pilot, kneels by his side, She's already in tears before she sees the extent of his wounds. Molly sees those tears and she is reminded of her own lack of them. Cry, Molly, cry! Cry from the place where it hurts, from the place where it has always hurt. But she can't even cry for a dying friend, and she knows who to blame for this, and she turns to Longcoat Bob. "This is all your fault!" she screams. "He's dying!" Longcoat Bob remains still, running his eyes over the Japanese pilot. No expression. Molly runs to him. "It's your fault we're here," she says. And she pulls on Longcoat Bob's hand. "You've got to save him now! Only you can save him now!" Lying flat on the sandstone rock, Yukio Miki can see the grey sky, and he can see the face of Greta Mays. She's weeping. "Stay, Yukio!" she wails. "You hear me? You stay right here!" She's wiping blood from his lips. She's placing her hand against his wound. He reaches his hand to her, his trembling hand. Only strength enough for this. His fingers slide across her cheek. His fingers move across her eyelashes. Her face moving closer to his now. The warmth of her. She is a light in the grey sky. She is sun. She is fire. Her cheek against his now. So close he can feel the tears running from her eyes. "Stay," she whispers. Her lips moving across his face. Those soft lips he would stay for. Those lips he would fight death for. Yet her lips against his will be his end, because he can die now with her kiss. Molly pulling on Longcoat Bob's arm, trying to drag the sorcerer towards Yukio Miki. But the old man does not move. "Use your magic, Longcoat Bob!" she bellows. "Use your magic on him!" Longcoat Bob stands firm, his face puzzled, his face tender. "Shh," he says to the girl. Then a word from the mouth of Yukio Miki. "Molly." She turns. "Molly. Hook." Molly runs back to the pilot, kneels by his side. "I'm sorry, Yukio," she says. "I'm sorry. I couldn't change anything. I thought I could change it all. I didn't change a thing." Yukio grips the girl's hand. He lifts his head as high up as he can. "Molly, Hook, change everything," he whispers. Then he lets his head fall back on the hard sandstone, and his eyes are wide when he looks to the sky, when he looks to high heaven, when he looks towards Nara. "Yukio, leave now, Molly Hook," he says, smiling. Something wondrous in his eyes. The light in them. "Yukio, shoot through." And his eyes do not close, but they do not move either. The first sky gift. The actress and the poet. They dance for the stranger from Japan. They believe her when she says he fell from the sky to save her. They believe her when she says he was good. Sam Greenway and the other male members of his family discussed the deeds of the foreign fighter pilot who took a bullet for Greta Mays and saved the life of the gravedigger girl. Sam said the girl meant a great deal to him, and Sam asked if they could dance for the stranger in a circle of earth, bordered by a ring of huts made of paperbark and corrugated iron and ironwood branches, a small and improvised camp in the deep country, 2 miles north of the gold cave with the heart of stone and the river that swallowed up Aubrey Hook. Sam and his family, dancing for the fighter pilot who rests with his eyelids closed on a rectangular stack of branches, while 4 men carefully wrap his body in sheets of paper bark. A dance for the dead. A dance that lasts for hours. A farewell that lasts so long that Molly whispers to Sam on the outskirts of the ceremonial circle that Yukio Miki probably wouldn't mind if all the boys wanted to stop and have a drink of water. "These boys can go for days, Moll," Sam says. "Can you feel it, Moll?"
"Feel what?"
"Oh, mate," Sam says, nodding at Yukio's body. "He's going back."
"Back where?"
"Back to where it all began, Moll." And Sam looks to the sky, and Molly follows his eyes up to it. Sam's dancing friends in the ceremonial circle look to the sky too, and spread their arms wide. "He's going back to get amongst it again, Moll," Sam says.
"To get amongst what?"
Molly asks. "Everything, Molly," Sam says, with the confident smile of a matinee idol by way of Mataranka. "Everything." They stay for 7 days. Molly and Greta share a hut and sleep side by side on soft beds of stuffed paperbark tied up with reeds. Young women in the camp bring them bowls of plums and tomatoes and plates of fresh fish and crocodile and scrub fowl cooked so well on a coal fire that Molly says she never wants to go back to Darwin. Molly tells Sam she needs to speak with Longcoat Bob. Sam says Longcoat Bob wants to talk to Molly, but Longcoat Bob is not around. Sam says Molly Hook must be patient. Sam says Molly Hook must slow down. Sam says she runs so fast towards all the answers that she runs right past every one of them. Sam says Molly must think of her friend Yukio. He says she must be there now for her friend Greta, who keeps weeping for the stranger from Japan. Molly and Greta wake in their sleep. In the darkness, with their eyes closed but their minds open, they try to make sense of their journey into the deep country.
"You awake?"
Molly asks in the darkness. "I am now."
"I can't sleep."
Greta says nothing.
"I keep thinking about Yukio."
More silence from Greta.
"Keep thinking about his family? They'll never get to know how he died. Maybe I could go to Japan and tell them about what he done. I could tell them how he saved your life."
But Greta remains silent, and Molly knows she's saying nothing because she's crying.
"I'm sorry,"
says Molly. "Sorry for what?"
"I keep talking about him."
"I reckon he's worth talking about, Moll." Molly turns to her side and rests her head on her palm and a propped-up elbow.
"Why did you come with me, Greta?"
Greta thinks on this for a moment. "I like gold as much as anyone," she says.
"Then why didn't you take any from that cave?"
There's a long silence in the hut. Greta says nothing.
"I reckon just one of those nuggets would have set you up good,"
Molly says.
"And what do you have now?" "Nothing."
More silence. Greta adopts her thickest Australian public bar accent. "Not a brass razoo," she says. Molly chuckles. Then more silence. Then more fear. More loneliness. More confusion. More gravedigger girl.
"I sure made a mess of things, didn't I, Greta?"
Greta turns on her side to face Molly, even if she can't see her face in the darkness. "You didn't make a mess, kid," Greta says. "You just dived right into it."
"I sure did, didn't I?"
Molly allows herself another chuckle. Greta laughs with her, and their chuckles turn into belly laughs, and it feels good to laugh, because it all feels so much like a dream and a nightmare that they survived. and laughter might be the only thing they have left in their pockets between them. "Don't worry about me, kid," Greta says, turning onto her back again to return to sleep. "I've had worse things than nothing." On the third day, the female elders in the camp visit the hut, and they bring with them the baby who fell from the sky. They place him in Greta's arms, and she weeps when she holds him. But they are good tears, and the elders weep with her because they know the child for what he is, a gift. A gift they thought they had lost. Then he was found by the beautiful actress in the emerald dress, who they assure does not belong in the deep country. The female elders had spoken at length on this conundrum, and they have settled on the notion that the actress must belong in the wild because she survived it. She made it this far, and she made it with a miracle in her arms. And she was so reluctant to part with that miracle, even though she knew she had to, that the female elders were left in no doubt that the woman in the emerald dress was as radiant on the inside as she was on the outside. Sam visits the hut to say there is a sacred cave deep in the scrub where he and his friends will carry the body of Yukio Miki. Inside that sacred cave, Yukio's body will slowly disintegrate, and when it does, his friends will respectfully gather his bones and place them inside a large and sacred hollow log where they will be left alone out of respect by both human and animal. But Molly asks if she can bury Yukio Miki the only way she knows how, with a shovel and a pair of boots. So Sam and a friend carry Yukio's body on a stretcher made of branches deep into the scrub, and they place him down in a clearing of rich and soft chocolate-brown soil beside a sprawling and majestic banyan tree with spreading limbs that looked to Molly like the snakes that wriggled out of Medusa's head in the world of stories. And she figures that's okay, because that's the world that Yukio belongs to now. The world of stories. Molly and Greta dig his grave together, foot by foot, resting every half hour to drink from their water bag. The sun is falling when they've finished filling the hole in. Molly stands in the orange light at the foot of the grave. She holds the pilot's family sword. "Can I say something for him?" she asks Greta. The actress nods silently. This is the end of CD 12. The book continues on CD 13.